Welcome to the DMZ, a place to practice good faith rhetoric, not just farm gotchas and dunks. We use structure to cultivate conversations where you have to stop and listen to the other person, even if it is just to find the flaws in what they are saying. Please check your weapons at the door, take notes, and attack the belief, not the believer. After each debate, there will be a free link to where you can go to vote on which side you believe made the most compelling case. So, sit back, relax, and cast those votes. This is the DMZ. Those who rely on their communities rather than themselves tend to be weak and dependent. This was actually a pretty hot button prompt, to be honest. Everybody had something to say on this. F is going to be AVG, also known as Average Female Debater. AVG, would you please tell the people a little bit about yourself? Tell us where we can find you and tell us what you're about. I'll drop your link in the chat.
Yeah, so I'm a social issues debater. I debate primarily on YouTube and sometimes on our clandestine name and photo on another platform that only my close friends are aware of. I debate all kinds of things. I also am a litigator by trade, so I'm very familiar with legalities. Still figuring out how to work that into my YouTube stuff, but we'll see. My handle is at capital A, capital B, capital G, and then lowercase female debater. I've got quite a few videos, and I'm almost at 500 subs, so please follow me there. You can also follow me on X, Average Female Debater with an 8 in place of the A.
Very, very cool. And I did put that link into the chat, so everybody give that a link, click and a follow. And we have all seen Zach here before. If you're feeling adventurous, Zach, please tell the people who you are, what you're about, and where they can find you. I'll drop your link in the chat.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Zach, President and CEO of If You're Feeling Adventurous. You can find me on Twitter, YouTube, here on Twitch, Kick, Rumble, If You're Feeling Adventurous. I'm a Christian, author, father. I've been a lot of places and seen a lot of things, and I like discussing things. I like arguing with people. I'm a combative person, so if you like that kind of stuff, if you like hearing very spicy takes, come on and check me out, but only if you're feeling adventurous.
There you go. Nice. He said the thing, everybody. He said the thing. All right. So mostly for you, AVG, this is your first time here, so I kind of want to just go over the format with you. The way that this works is we're going to have a 3-minute opening from you, uninterrupted. After that, Zach, oh, your name is all wonky, Zach. I'm sorry. After that, Zach is going to have 3 minutes on the clock to cross-examine or rebut as he sees fit. It's his time to control and use to either poke holes in your arguments or set up his own arguments. Then he's going to get 3 minutes uninterrupted to go through his own opening, after which you get the same courtesy. You get 3 minutes, AVG, to cross-examine or rebut as you see fit. After that, we go into a 15-minute open forum conversation where the two of you just kind of handle it and duke it out. After that, we go into a Q&A session. Now, the Q&A session, we're going to be open to the chat. Anybody in the chat who wants to submit a question, they can click the little link, throw $2 in the tip jar, and they get to ask you guys a question as well. But barring that, each of the two judges and myself will ask each of the two debaters one question. That's just to kind of help fill in the blanks or whatever we want to hear more about. And then after that, you're both going to get another 3 minutes for an uninterrupted closing. So it's pretty simple, pretty straightforward, but you can always see the clock above my head in the Discord or in the video feed. So if we don't have any questions, I'm going to go ahead and jump straight into it. Ms. AVG, 3 minutes is on the clock. For those who rely on their communities rather than themselves tend to be weak and dependent. I'll start the clock when you start to talk.
All right. So I'm going to be honest. Well, when I signed up for this debate, I was shocked that somebody would take the negative position on this. People who are not self-sufficient are weak and dependent, whether we like to admit it or not. I anticipate that my opponent will spend a great deal of time in this debate advancing a series of ought claims, like that the communities ought be there for all their members, or how human beings are social and that they ought form communities that they can depend on, aka sunshine and roses. This is not our reality, ladies and gentlemen. In modernity, people are largely concentrated in cities. They're often isolated. And since the dawn of the internet and its recent advanced renditions, including components like AI, people who were previously not able to be self-sufficient now are and are easily able to do so with the help of this technology. Food can be delivered, trips can be planned, medication can be ordered, doctor's visits can take place from the comfort of our own home in front of our preferred screen. Of course, as a result, people who are unable to survive without the help of a community in a true sense are very few. They are the exception. For my opponent to win this debate, he will have to convince you that reliance doesn't equal dependence, and that an inability to be self-sufficient makes you strong. And there isn't a snowball's chance in hell of that occurring now or ever. I yield.
All right. Very good stuff. So, Zach, 3 minutes is going to go on the clock for you. Use that time as you see fit. I'll start the clock when you start to talk.
Ooh, boy. My opponent didn't do much research, did they? uh, let me ask you something. When you make broad statements like the ones you just made in your uh, opening there, do you at all times adhere to your Christian principles and your Christian beliefs?
Sorry, this
Can
is
you
your
hear me?
opening.
No,
Yep,
this is
your
I'm
opening.
sorry, let me stop the clock. This is the cross-examination phase. This is where he gets to ask you questions about
Okay,
your
sorry.
opening or
My bad.
rebut as he sees fit. I'm sorry, I'll start the clock over again. 3 minutes is back on it. Go
Yep,
ahead and
my bad.
start over. No worries.
Do you want me to repeat the
Yeah,
question?
yes,
or-
please. Start over.
Okay. When you make broad statements like that, Miss AVG, do you at all times adhere to your Christian convictions and belief structures?
So not everybody's Christian.
Yeah, but on your channel, you say you are. You say you're an Orthodox Christian.
That's correct. I'm a catechumen.
Okay, so
What does that have to do with this?
it has everything to do with it because Christian morality extends to how we behave in our community. So, will you please answer the question?
Yeah, so this is about individuals generally. This is not about me or my fellow Orthodox Christians. So,
Okay, refusal to answer the question. That's a great start. All right. Okay.
my
Yeah,
morality doesn't have
horseradish.
anything to do with this. This is a
Yes, it
debate.
does. Morality. Go. Sorry, horseradish. Go ahead and start my open.
All right, sounds good. In that case, we'll go ahead and go straight into your opening, Zach. 3 minutes is on the clock, sir. Start it up when you're ready.
Okay. My opponent affirms that reliance on community makes us weak and dependent. But not only do I assert the opposite, but the overwhelming empirical evidence demonstrates the opposite as well. Community involvement improves mental, physical, and spiritual well being. Loneliness and isolation are associated with increased risk of removing yourself from the census, heart disease, stroke, diabetes, and dementia, to name the worst of them. I don't know about you, but it seems like anything that does all of that to you is weakening you significantly. And community involvement is the cure. My opponent might try to argue around this and say, no, it's dependence that's the problem. Dependence causes the weakness. But to do that, my opponent needs to create a clear dividing line between community involvement and dependence, which cannot be reasonably established due to our communal nature as a species. Humans are a social animal, the primary mode of existence of which has been inside of a community for 99.999% of individuals who have ever lived for 99.9999% of their lifespan. Therefore, we can safely assume that humans are naturally interdependent upon each other. Next, we need to assess the result of that interdependence to see whether or not it makes weakness. How are humans doing as a species? Well, we live in every single biome on the planet. We have no natural predators because we outcompeted or domesticated them all, and have become so successful as a species that our single biggest problem as a species is how to manage the overwhelming hordes of idiots within our own species. So I frankly scoff at any argument that says community has weakened us as a species or as individuals. Furthermore, from a Christian worldview, we are morally commanded to defend and provide for the weak and helpless. Therefore, we must, within our own communities, be fruitful in labor and physically and mentally strong, so as to be rocks for those who need us. This is the basis of the famous Protestant work ethic. Under a Christian worldview, our communities must make us stronger as individuals and as a collective. Our belonging to a community, especially religious community, increases our baseline mental and physical health, such that when an individual is removed from their community, they have a psychological buffer that shields them from mental distress and despair and the physical weakness that comes with it. Finally, due to the fact that humans are naturally interdependent species where individuals require a certain amount of community to live at all, my opponent needs to establish exactly where the line of reliance and dependent is and demonstrate how we can meaningfully separate the two. Thank you.
All right. Now we're going to go ahead and put 3 minutes on the clock. AVG, you ask questions. This is your directed time to ask specific questions or rebut as you see fit. I'll start the clock when you start to talk.
Great. So first question, you've been harping a lot on the Christianity. What denomination are you?
I don't consider myself to be any specific denomination.
Non-denominational. Thank you very much. What percentage
Yep.
of the population is Christian? What percentage of the population has a Christian community to rely upon? Zach?
Oh, that depends on the country you're talking about. I think about 50, is it 53, 57% of the USA population currently claims some level of Christianity.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So it's not the majority. I mean, it's barely a majority. It's like 7 points according. Do you have a stat for that?
No, I don't have a stat for that. That's off memory.
Okay, because it seems a bit high to me. I thought it was more around 30 something. Okay. Yeah. No, that's fine. If you don't have a stat, you don't have a stat. I'll just take that as a concession. Are you saying that independent people are not hardworking or strong for their self-sufficiency?
No, what I'm saying is that no one is truly independent in the way you're trying to frame. That is a complete myth.
Right. So what was the last time where people actually did the whole village to raise a child thing? Like, has that even been prominent? Because according to my studies, I see that most Americans actually don't have many close friends. They don't really have a community in essence.
Right, and how's that working out for America? Is our country on the up or downswing?
America is the greatest country in the world.
Yes, it is. That doesn't
Aren't you an
answer the question.
American?
That's a
Do you not
deflection.
believe that America is the greatest country in the world?
I do believe America is the greatest country in the world. That doesn't
So
mean
it's
we're not
working
in
great
decline.
then.
No, you can be the greatest and still be in decline.
How is America in decline because of that?
I think that's one of many factors.
Prove it.
Hey, Zach, get on this debate right now and prove that a massive sociological and economic problem with many facets is exactly the way you understand it.
So you can't pour it to a direct correlation, which means that you have no causation.
No one can.
I don't even need the other 50 seconds. He's already cooked.
All right. Well, then in that case, I'm going to go ahead and put the 15 minutes on the clock, everybody. So please do me a favor, try to keep this civil. You heard the opening. We're going to keep this above the belt, but definitely see this as getting a little bit spicy. So I hope neither of y'all are easily offended, and go ahead and get after it. This is y'all's time.
What you said that I didn't do a lot of research. What stats did you bring?
Actually, I'm sorry. Let me stop. Yep. I was about to say, let me stop and interrupt. I need to be clear for everybody out there in the chat as well. This is the first time in all of the debates, so we've been doing this for months, that I've had both debaters give me at least 8 to 10 sources. So with that said, if we go over on time because we're pulling up sources, I am perfectly fucking fine with that. I have both of y'all's sources ready to go. If you just tell me which source specifically you want me to pull up, I'll be able to pull it up for the viewers as well. So that said, tell me what you need pulled up and I'll do it.
Yeah, so I'd like to put the ball in his court.
Yep.
You'd like what?
To put the ball in your
I'd
court,
like
you
to put
said.
the ball in your court. You criticize me for what you assume is lack of research. I say, show me the research. Show it to me. Okay.
I think you did not research me at all. I'm sure you researched plenty into the topic. I've seen your debates. You definitely like to look at studies and do your homework, but you know, you clearly didn't do your homework on me. So,
Chop, chop.
Horseradish, please go ahead and send her the studies. You can pull up any of the studies. All of the studies that I sourced are basically reinforcing my central point, which is that because we are a social animal and we require a community, it's not optional. You don't have a choice. You have to have some level of social engagement and involvement in a community, or you literally die of psychosis, loneliness, etc. So it's your prompt. You are taking a position that's literally unwinnable. Community, at some level, is a physiological need.
Okay, so why do introverts succeed then in loneliness?
What exception that proves the rule? Why does this one type of people, which is a very small subset of the population, succeed, and by the
What
way
percentage
still
is
get
it?
plenty of social
What
interaction?
percentage is it?
Introverts still live in society. They still go to the store, they still see other human beings, they still go to a job or have online communities they interact with. They don't live on an island with no internet. So not only is that exception that proves the rule, but it's also not a true exception to begin with.
Where's the stat? Where's the stat? How many? What's the percentage of introverts?
It's irrelevant. It doesn't matter.
No, it isn't irrelevant. You're saying that
It's
they're rare.
absolutely
You're saying that
irrelevant.
they're an exception. You
The
demonstrate that
percentage of
they're an
people who are
exception.
introverts has nothing to do with whether or not introverts actually disprove the fact that humans need community.
It defines whether they're an exception, which you just stated they were. That's a bold claim, sir. Are you going to back that up?
She really wants me to prove that introverts are a non-majority part of the
I'm
population.
I'm stopping the clock real quick. Yeah, I'm stopping the clock real quick to let you know that I sent both of you the other person's list of resources, just so you know. In your Discord messages, you should see the entire list, so you guys can see it as well as the audience if you guys ask me to.
Yeah, so provide me with a stat. Give me a stat.
Okay.
Oh, wait. One stat, sir. Go ahead. Pick a stat. Any
Well,
stat.
let's see.
Disproves my opening.
I'm looking for one that isn't a self-report. I want something that's diagnosed by clinicians. Introversion is.
I did stop the clock for you guys while you're looking that up, just so you know.
Gender differences. Mm-hmm.
By the way, if you want to bring up the Midland psychological article, that'll be my first stat that I'll be turning to you.
Yes, ma'am.
Horseradish.
Roger that. You said the Midland.
Thank you.
Absolutely. You said the Midland.
I'm seeing everything from 16 to just under 50%. Common middle ground seems to be 30%. So I think can we agree on 1/3?
Sure. We'll agree on 1/3. It doesn't seem that small, though, to me.
Still a minority.
Okay, but it doesn't seem exceptional. It seems like they're actually pretty dominant in the population. We think about how big the world is. Let's go to my Midland psychological article with respect to the independent personality and relationships. Characteristics of independent people: hardworking, driven, successful, self-critical, quality or quantity, right? Outspoken, work alone, interested. Does any of this sound like somebody who is weak to you?
Have I heard a single instance of lives alone in the woods, never sees anyone, does all of their own sustenance for their life, gets all their own food, cooks all their own meals, gets all the raw materials needed for all of their living needs? No, they outsource all of that shit to their community and civilization. Are you fucking kidding me with this? You're giving me girl boss points. Are you fucking kidding me? Actually.
Girl boss points. Ah, nice stat, home. Yeah, so let's go to my article from The Guardian, which cites the amount of Americans that are actually living off grid. It's quite high.
The Guardian. Give me one
Yes,
second. Give me 1 second to pull
100.
that one up. Yep. When it's cold at night, is that the one?
Yeah, that's the one.
Got it.
2019 study had found that national averages range between 180,000 to 750. It's hard to estimate the exact number, but it could be as high as 750,000 people that do this. That kind of goes against your point that human beings like need a community and that nobody can survive without one, doesn't it?
Exception that proves the rule.
Exception proves the rule.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going with that.
Are you
We're going
familiar with that
again.
concept?
We're going with that again. Can you tell me how?
It's a valid argument.
Can you tell me how somebody being reliant on like a caretaker, for instance, which typically, by the way, only happens in older adults, makes them strong?
So now you want to argue that someone who's either in a debilitated state from illness or injury, or who has reached the end of their life and is in unavoidable need of a caretaker is somehow
Independent. Yes, that is a reality.
A valid. No, see, what you're doing is you're twisting the prompt. The prompt does not specify subgroups of people. It's a generally worded prompt that's clearly talking about the population at large.
Is it
And
clearly
now you're
talking
trying
about it,
to
or do you
hone
think it's
in,
convenient
and
for
now
them?
you're trying
Look
to
it up
hone
like
in
that.
on a small subset of people that necessarily are dependent to try to extrapolate that to the whole prompt.
So they are
No,
dependent.
no.
So they are
Yeah,
dependent
they
because
are
they
dependent,
rely
but
on a community, right?
that doesn't prove your side of
Are they
this
also
prompt,
weak? If they're
because
disabled, are they
again,
also
that's
weak?
an exception, not that proves the rule this time. It's
If
just
they're
a true
disabled, are
exception.
they also weak? If they're old, are they also weak?
Yeah, I don't
Okay,
need
you
someone
just
who's
conceded the
disabled
debate.
or
You
reliant
just
on
conceded the
caretakers.
debate. You just
No,
conceded
I
the freaking
didn't,
debate.
because you're arguing a subset of population and trying to extrapolate that out to an entire group.
I'm sorry that it hurts your feelings, but it's true. It's freaking true. Okay. Yes, it's rough to like
Oh, guys,
consider the
my
fact that
feelings are so
old
hurt.
people
My
and
tiny
disabled
little
people are
iron
weak
heart
and
is just
dependent. It's
broken
a
over here,
horrible
guys.
reality, but it doesn't change the fact that they're weak and dependent. You snowflake. Come on. Get with the program.
Man, the ad hoc, spicy.
Hey,
Yeah,
you did
look,
it too.
I reject it. I reject your
Tip for
premise.
that, sir.
A subset of the population does not extrapolate out to the entire prompt. It's a bad faith argument. I reject it entirely.
It's a bad faith argument because you can't
It
contend
is a
with
bad
it.
faith
Great.
argument.
Go on to your next. Let's go to your next study. I'm sure I'll demolish that as well.
Okay. I don't even think we've even begun to bring up any of my studies, but yeah.
Is there
like
one you'd like to bring up?
To the same thing. Yeah, they're all pointing to the same thing. Why don't you bring up number 2 there? Religious community improves survival and health.
Got it. Give me 1 second. You said it was the second one you sent?
So, yeah, it's the second on the list, yeah. So, AVG, would you contest that affiliation with a religious organization makes you more mentally and spiritually resilient?
For the sole reason that you're connecting to God, and yes.
No, because in the Bible itself, it talks about not forsaking the brotherhood of your fellow Christians and leaning on each other and
You're
bearing
sola
each other's
scriptura.
burdens.
That's right. You're non-denom. I'm sorry. Of course you're going to be sola scriptura.
I'm sorry, I don't need a guy in a robe to tell me what it says in plain language. If it says,
You just
help
insult
your
my
fellow
priest? That's
man,
offensive.
carry your brother's burdens, do this, and you have done unto the Lord. I don't need a guy in a robe to tell me that means I'm expected to serve my community.
Need a spiritual father? Are you hearing this, chat?
That's not what I said. That's a straw man. That's a straw man. I said I don't need someone to tell me what something says in plain English, or plain language, I should say, because it was translated.
You believe the Bible word for word. You think it's sola scriptura that you everything in the Bible is to be taken literate.
Just ad hom and straw man with this person. Okay,
No,
I had much higher expectations.
You're saying
That's
you don't
not
need
what
a
I said
priest.
either.
I'm assuming you're relying on the Bible, right? And your own
Listen to what I said. I'll slow it down for you. I don't need someone to give me an interpretation of very plain language. Did you
do you
get
rely
that?
on a
Do I
university
need
professor?
to flip it and reverse it for you?
a college level course? Do you need an intermediary to teach you something of a valid skill level, like how to become a doctor?
Oh yes, because I can't go and do the history work and learn about the cultural context and source the knowledge myself. I
Dodge,
have to
dodge,
get that from
dodge,
someone who's gone to
dodge.
seminary.
Dodge,
I
dodge.
can't
It
put
is,
myself I
right? You
can't put
do.
myself through layman's seminary. I have to
Can
rely
you
on the
teach
words of
yourself to
someone who
become a
did it.
doctor? Can you teach yourself to become a doctor?
As a matter of fact, I taught myself to become a physical therapist, and that's what I've done for the last three and a
Are you
half
currently
years.
certified as a physical therapist?
That's not what I said. I said I taught myself to become one. My clients can
So
tell
you're
you how
not
much I
certified
help them.
then. So you can't get a
Oh
job. You
my
can't get a
god, it's like
legitimate
she
job
doesn't
in your
even hear me
own
when I
field.
speak.
This is bad. This is so bad for you. Okay, keep going with these ridiculous points. What's your next what's your next
It's totally
statistic?
ridiculous. It's totally ridiculous that involvement in a religious community makes you a more resilient person because you have people who are relying on you and who give you positive community feedback, which is good for your physical and mental health. That's a
It makes you
ridiculous point for you.
dependent. It makes you dependent, and if you depend on that community to survive, yes, you are weak. You are weak, whether you like to admit that or not. You are weak.
Define weakness, please.
Yeah, weakness is. Do you want the Merriam-Webster definition? That's what I
No,
usually go by.
Merriam-Webster is politically captured. I want your definition.
Oh, it makes you sad inside if I use Merriam-Webster. I'm going to use it anyway. Lacking strength, such as deficient in physical vigor, not able to sustain or exert much weight, pressure, or strain, not able to resist external force or withstand attack, easily upset or nauseated. Also, mentally or intellectually deficient, which is what you are currently in this debate. Not factually grounded or logically presented. Also, you, not able to function properly. You seem to be good at that. Lacking skill or proficiency. This is kind of you right now, indicative of a lack of skill or aptitude. I'll take that.
Just
You got a better one?
stop with the ad homs. Wow.
Go
Like
ahead
I've
with
gotten
your
better.
definition.
Like holy shit, I've gotten better treatment from leftists on this show. Wow, this is crazy right now.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Are you going to be okay? Do we need to check your vital signs?
I'm just kind of aghast. Like I truly like unrelated to the debate. I've been curious and looking into orthodoxy, and I've been entertaining it
Oh, and I
as a possible
discouraged you
higher
based on my
calling,
performance. Oh.
and just not exactly setting the best example. That's all I'm gonna say
Oh
about that.
no! Oh my gosh. I'm so mean. Not the orthodoxy is mean. Ortho bros and bishes are mean people. Do you have an actual argument?
Hey, which one of these do I want to pull up next? Yeah, let's go with that one. Hey, third study.
Pulling it up now. 1, 2, 3. That's the local PSY Miami. Mortality. Isolation increases mortality up to 30%. Is that the one?
Isolation literally causes you to die. Let's see what you have to say about that. Come on, let's hear it.
Okay, so that's a false correlative because
No, it's
isolation is
not.
a community with reliance on community dependency. So
It's not a false correlation. It's literally
tell me
isolated
how it's
down
not.
in the studies.
Show me how it's
Huh?
not. Prove to me that
Tell
it's
you
not.
how it's not?
Yes.
Because in the methodology of these studies, they cross-reference for behaviors, they cross-reference for other sociological and personal factors. They control very tightly down to, okay, is this person being killed by other factors? Is this person being killed by this, that, or the other? Or is it truly the physical health issues that are caused by a worsening mental state caused by their isolation and loneliness? It's very well controlled for, especially in meta-analysis like this one, where they have very large sample sizes to go off of. And yeah, literally being lonely, being isolated from community literally increases your risk of dying 3x.
Okay, so you're talking about extreme solitude. So let's look at some of the stats for why
I'm
people
not talking
enjoy
about extreme
solitude.
solitude. No. I'm not talking about extreme
Oh,
solitude.
good, you're not?
Even
Okay, perfect.
even
Horseradish.
perceived isolation, even just feeling like you don't have a community is enough to do it.
Yeah, good. Okay, horseradish, can you pull up the who enjoys solitude, autonomous functioning, but not introversion, predicts self-determined motivation, but not preference for solitude. Can you pull that up? That's the
Absolutely. Which
NIH article.
the NIH article? All right, 10-4.
There's a couple NIH,
Personality
but
traits
it's
of solitary people.
no. It is who enjoys solitude,
You notice
autonomous
how she didn't
functioning.
actually address that solitude kills you. She just deflected. Bring
Oh,
up
cry harder
insight,
about
quick.
it. I'll address it afterwards.
Uh,
Who enjoys solitude? Autonomous functioning. That's the one. It's PMC 9132342 in the URL.
oh yeah. Okay,
Horseradish.
yeah. It says personality traits. That's what the little title of it is. So got
Okay,
it.
that's my own title. Okay,
Yep.
great.
No worries.
Yeah, so this was a study. It was done in 2022. Effectively, it's outlining who is motivated, right, to pursue a solitary life, right? There's misconceptions that these people are freaks and that they can't tolerate under individuals, but we actually see a different outcome. A lot of introverted people choose solitary life just based on their own preference. It's not an indicator of someone who is unsocial. It's not an indicator of someone who is perverse or somebody who's a freak of nature. It's actually just a preference. And this study, right, which is done, proves it. So.
And what does any of that have to do with whether or not these individuals, A, are strong or weak or reliant or not? And B, how does the fact that they enjoy their alone time prove that they don't rely on civilization for a great deal of their material needs?
So point by point, right? Number one, how does it prove that they aren't community reliant? Can you repeat your first inquiry on this, please? Is that it?
How does what you just said
Mhm.
demonstrate that these people are strong and self-reliant and all that good stuff? And second of all, how does this whole thing that you've brought up demonstrate that they are removing themselves from society? Because alone time is not isolation from community. Community involvement and having a community is living inside of civilization and having people you talk to regularly, whether it's on Reddit or in a church or at work or whatever. It's some level of community engagement. Demonstrate for me that the study that you brought up is looking at people that live out in the woods and never see anyone.
Yeah, so it's a preference. It's a self motivation. So they don't actually have it as a need. So what that tells us is this: it's just a commonsensical fact, right? If I choose a way of life, right, I do so in a conscious way, right? I know, okay, I won't have the support of a community, and I'm choosing that regardless. That tells me some things. It tells me number one, I'm self sufficient. Number two, I have the cognitive ability to assess and predict how I might survive, right? I have good survival instincts. And number three, I'm strong. I'm able to take care of myself. That's what that tells me because it's a choice. It's not a
I'm hearing
necessity.
rah rah. I'm hearing sloganeering. I have not heard a single point demonstrating that these people don't need socialization to not go insane and die.
Okay, so exactly how are where in the prompt are we considering that community reliance and like deterrence to that, right, would mean that you would prefer to be alone and never talk to a single person? Can you show me where that correlation exists?
That would be something that you had to prove because you are the one that keeps bringing up people that have a introverted bent or enjoy their alone time, and you're correlating that to the word community, which is not the same thing. Because again,
Oh, a little
being
gaslight
someone that
there.
likes spending some time alone is not the same thing as distancing yourself from community. You're doing a false
Ah,
equivocation.
I love how you're projecting, right? You're the one that's avoiding my question, right? Which was like, how does that relate to the prompt? And you can't establish it. You're trying to say, you're trying to take the prompt, right? Which is that community reliance is equaling to weakness and dependency, and say, well, aren't people who have zero social interaction, aren't they like broken individuals? Well, duh, no shit, Sherlock, but that's not the freaking correlation that exists between the prompt and what you're asserting, okay? Like,
what exactly do you think I'm asserting? Because I'm not
you're
asserting
taking
that people.
you're taking a principle and like putting it to an extreme, which is not even considered in the prompt.
What principle is that?
You're trying to say that somebody who does not have community dependency is somebody who lives alone in a shack in the middle of fucking nowhere, and they don't see a single person, and they don't ever log on online. Okay, that is
Yes,
wrong.
literally, that is what it means to have zero community dependency,
As
because
you.
everyone who lives in society. Hey, guess what? Did you make the shirt you're wearing? Did you build the house you're in? Did you pump the electricity into that house?
Oh, a
Did
slight
you get
degree of
internet to your
reliance on a
house?
system.
When you go to
Yes.
church, do you preach the sermon? Do you administer all of the rites? Like, are you kidding me? You just
so
brute
that's-
fact all of these elements of community and you
Dependency-
grant them to the
Dependency is
isolationist
the operative word here,
absent the
sir.
fact that they're part of community.
Dependency, not use of, dependency on.
And
Okay.
so here again, you never did establish for me the line between dependency and engagement with or involvement with. You just, again, you're equivocating the
Neither
two.
did
Oh,
you.
if I'm
just got your
engaged with these
feelings
things
and
that society
cry about
provides
it.
me at all, I'm dependent on them. Never mind the fact that society necessitates mutual exchange. Never mind the fact that to be a member of society, you generally speaking have to provide some value. No, I'm just going to say any level of acceptance of community resource. This is what's really funny about your argument too. Any level of acceptance of community resources or benefit from the community makes me a dependent, weak bitch. But I can also say that living out in the woods is not what I need to show to say I'm not reliant on the community. You are a hypocrite inside your own points.
Oh
All right.
Gosh. How will I ever survive?
So real quick, okay, I'm gonna go ahead and jump in now. I first of all, I have to say, I'm not sure where the ad homs started in all of that. I let you guys cook. I do my best to not interfere or interrupt. I let things kind of handle themselves. When you guys weren't talking past each other, I was really enjoying it. But I felt like I have to say, I've never had a debate in this channel where people laughed as much as the two of y'all. That was amazing. Like, I'm glad y'all were so fucking amused by this. Now, with that said, I appreciate y'all. We're going to get into the Q&A section because y'all are both passionate about this, and I really wish I could have heard more points from both of y'all, but it did really feel like there was a lot of talking past each other. So hopefully me and the judges are going to be able to find some commonality and or some solid ground between the two of y'all. We go through the AF. Like I said, I go first. I hope both of y'all have a question ready for our debaters. But I'm going to go to you first, Miss AVG. And I'm going to put a 1 minute on the clock. Although if you go over, I'm not going to like penalize or anything like that. I want to hear the answer. That's more important than the timer. What constitutes community to you? In the arguments, Zach was trying to use it seemed to be a larger sense or a larger definition of community, i.e. the entirety of society being your community, such as the people who make your t-shirts and your cars, etc. But to you, it seems like community is much smaller than that. So I'd like to hear in your words, if you would, what constitutes community in this prompt?
Yeah, so I think it's a close social group of people that share like common interests, that support each other in a mutual sense amongst their ranks, and they do so without any kind of compensation. So obviously, the person that made this shirt, Virgil Abloh, may he rest in peace, is not part of my community. So like I bought a shirt from him.
Okay, so community is smaller in your eyes. All right, Doomer, do you have a question ready for AVG first?
Yeah, kind of in the same vein as Horse's question. I think in the debate you clarified one of the definitions. You just clarified community. Can you clarify reliance? I think that kind of had a broad kind of definition, and I don't think you ever really clarified the more closed off, narrow definition. I believe you have.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously the debate is primarily focused on dependency, but if I had to define reliance on, I would say is needed in order to survive and or carry on daily functions.
Okay. Very cool. And Tyler, do you have a question ready for AVG as well?
Yes, I do.
Let me hear it.
All right, so my estranged cousin AVG, when Zach brought up his studies showing mental health and thus physical health downsides to isolation, you said that was extreme solitude, that he was picking out a group and going extreme solitude. But you brought up in your earlier argument that 700,000 people were living in the woods as a pro to show that complete lack of dependency is possible for the strongest people. Isn't extreme solitude, in your opinion, the most strong people?
So no. So my definition was people that choose willingly to live off the grid. His definition included people who have no social interaction. Obviously, people who live off the grid have some social interaction
Okay. All right. Good
to
stuff.
their family, friends,
Or yeah,
you know.
they're whomever their community is by your definitions.
Yeah.
Yep, got it. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and turn over to you now, Zach. Oh, well, actually, I guess we're gonna turn to us first. Turn over to you now, Zach. So at the very beginning, it seemed like the vast majority of your arguments were set up on Christian ethics. So with that said, you said something about it clearly stating in the Bible. I actually giggled a little because I don't feel like anything is clearly stated in the Bible. But for the context of this argument, if you would be so kind as to just tell me what you mean by it is clear, like what passages or what scriptures or whatever does it clearly lay out what you were talking about?
Well, unfortunately, I'm not super good at, I'm not that guy that can just quote verse and page and all that good stuff to you. I wish I had a memory like that. But I do remember in narrative and in my sources, you saw I gave you Galatians 6:2, carry each other's burdens. That's just one example. And the Bible is riddled with little stuff like that. It might be a whole verse, it might be one line, but it's pretty much ubiquitous through the entire gospel of Jesus Christ that loving your fellow man is to love Christ. If you fulfill love of your fellow man, you fulfill love, and you fulfill the entirety of the law. If you love your fellow man, you fulfill the entirety of the law. And loving your fellow man includes things like seeing to his needs, being there for him when he needs it. If you visited the sick, if you gave to the poor, if you visited those who were jailed, then you have done that unto me. The Bible is very, very strong on the be part of your community. No one can give an honest read of the biblical canon and come away thinking, I think God wants me to be an isolationist. Just doesn't work.
All right, fair. Doomer, a question for Zach, please.
Yeah, like I said in the previous question, I think you had more of a broad sense of kind of what everything was like, reliance, community, and whatnot. So I guess my question would be more, what distinguishes like a healthy support system, like that you brought up in the studies, from systems that would discourage self-development?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the last part of that one more time?
What would distinguish like a healthy support system, like the stuff you brought up in your studies, like the sense of community and whatnot, from systems that discourage self-development?
From systems that discourage self-development. Well, it's a little bit of a weird way to ask that. So
Or I
a
guess,
system that just go ahead.
sorry, go
Yeah,
ahead.
he can rephrase if you'd like. That's fine.
No, I got it.
You
So
got
a
it?
system
All right.
that discourages self-development is any system that is all carrot, no stick, for no input or merit of your own. So, for example, when we give single moms unending welfare, that they basically, all they have to do to continue getting more and more welfare is keep pumping out kids and never be in a relationship with any of the baby daddies. They have to stay single and alone. That is an example of a system that incentivizes stagnation, degradation, and weakness, because you are, putting yourself in a compromised position where you're heavily burdened by children and you're relying on system input that you are dependent wholly on. Does that answer your question? That would be one example. And then a system that, would encourage progress and development from the people participating in said system is pretty much any Christian or Christian adjacent religious affiliation, religious communities, as my study demonstrates. We didn't get there, but it's in there. All Christian affiliation tends to develop people that have good work ethic, move away from addiction, move towards healthy habits, etc.
All right. And Tyler, question for Zach, please, sir.
Okay, Zach, your big examples here seem to be talking, one, about economic structure based off of specialization. That's a global thing. The other is, we were talking about loneliness, but I didn't hear in your study that they controlled for the variable of being within a community or isolated in the woods. So I feel like that's a nationwide study that's too broad for me. Can you give me your definition of what a community is using that data?
Well, that's one issue that I kind of had with the prompt, is a lot of these terms, reliance, weak, community, these have a lot of corollary definitions that you can argue, and so I debated including definitions in my opening, but I opted not to. So how I would define community is any group of people that you engage in regularly for any meaningful social interaction that causes you to have the psychological and physiological neuro responses that are responsible for preventing you from falling into that 3x times likely to die stat. So there's things like release of dopamine for social rewards. There's serotonin that we get from pair bonding, oxytocin from religious pairing, not religious, romantic pairing. These are all the brain chemicals that release us, that lower cortisol and inflammation, that contribute towards our overall physical well-being and make us stronger. Any community or group of people that you get those happy chemicals in your brain from, that's community.
All right. So looks like we got a few questions coming in from the chatters. So we're going to go to those now. The first one, we got a big old $5 tip from Anonymous. As an Orthodox Christian, how can you say, this is apparently, I'm guessing, for the Orthodox Christian, how can you say community makes you weak and dependent when Orthodox literally survived for so long because they banded together as a community? Right.
Yeah, so easy. Orthodox people are not the majority of the population, and whether or not we like to admit it or not, dependency on a community does make you dependent, definitionally.
All right, that's a pretty easy answer. And let's next question. This one I think might be for Zach. Actually, hang on. This one is from Ancom, also a $5 tip. Thank you, buddy. So this one, oh no, this is to AFD. That would be, I think it's
me.
Yeah, that's you. Okay. Oh, average female debater. I'm AVG, AFD. Yeah,
Yep.
Okay. I'm all caught up. I'm sorry. All right. So you described that people are less dependent due to technology, citing things like food deliveries, and yet that technology actually increases reliance on other people, does it not? So let me rephrase that. Does the advancements in technology, such as food delivery and such, create more reliance on other people?
Well, so to that person, I would ask the question, is Pajit Singh, the Uber driver who delivered your McDonald's, part of your community? Will you ever see him again after this order? Can you depend on Mr. Singh?
Okay.
Like,
Sure. No. See, things like that, my inclination is to debate back and answer your question, but I'm not allowed to do that. So we'll do that in the after party.
Oh,
No, we do that. That's what the
ruin
after
our
party's in. All right, last question. This is from the chat. And this one, you are very popular, ma'am. All right. Also anonymous, also another $5 tip. Appreciate you. All right. So as an Orthodox Christian, how can you say community makes you weak and dependent when the Orthodoxy literally survived? That's the same fucking question. Okay, somebody did that one twice. Well, you know what? Answer it a second time. God damn it! when the Orthodoxy literally survived so long because they banded together as a community.
Yeah, so Orthodox people make up a small percentage of the population, and the fact that we would be dependent on the church does make you dependent, whether or not you like it or not.
Definitionally. Got it. All right. Cheers. So in that case, we've gotten through our Q&A. Thank you very much, chatters. I appreciate the contributions there. Remember, anytime you guys want to, I stack them up and I'm going to ask every question you guys submit will get asked of the debaters. We just want to get through it all first. So that said, we've gotten to our closing arguments. We're going to go back through in the same order we were. We're going to start with you, ma'am. 3 minutes is going to go on the clock for you. This is your opportunity uninterrupted to tell us your last thoughts and to bring it home for us. So I'll start the clock when you start to talk.
Thank you, Horseradish. Yeah, so I started off this debate effectively saying that for my opponent to win this debate, he would have to convince you that reliance doesn't equal dependence and that an inability to be self-sufficient makes you strong. And the fact is, he hasn't done that. When I pressed him on certain issues, he effectively said, "Oh, but what about this extreme example?" And when I actually contended with certain arguments, he said, "You're not a good Christian," but yet couldn't reference a single Bible verse. Isn't that so weird? And when I really dug into his points with respect to dependency, he said, you've discouraged me from approaching orthodoxy." Wow, this is a lot of feelings for someone who's supposed to be independent. Something tells me that my opponent isn't really that dependent at all. Now, as for what he did he prove that people who are in solitary confinement in a jail are subjected to certain health issues? Sure. Is that what we're talking about when we're talking about people that aren't dependent on a community? No. So the one W that he actually did take was on an unrelated issue to the prompt. You can't make this shit up. Ladies and gentlemen, I yield. My opponent's been cooked. He's been deep fried. I have made buffalo chicken nuggets out of this man, and I cannot see how he is going to salvage what was a complete and total wreckage. Thank you, Horseradish, for having me for this cookout.
Yes, ma'am. My pleasure. All right, Zach, 3 minutes is on the clock for closing arguments, sir. Let's hear it.
So, my opponent forgot that there's a second word in the prompt that you kind of need alongside the other one, and that word is weak. And what she failed to do is demonstrate how you don't become severely weakened when you distance yourself or have a lower engagement with community. The scientific evidence is literally overwhelming. You can't find a study to argue against the fact that community involvement improves your mental and psychological well-being. This has downstream effects, which improves your physical health. If you're a religious person, you understand how that has a positive impact on your spiritual health. This extrapolates out from the individual to strengthening the community and the civilization as a whole. There is literally no sound argument you can make where humans do not need to regularly engage with each other and at least to some extent rely on each other, if for nothing else, the happy chemicals in our brain that keep us from going senile and having heart attacks in our 30s. You have to have community. It's a non-negotiable, and we've known it for decades. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. There we go. we are done with our first debate in the books. Thank you both for hanging out, showing up, doing the job. We're going to go ahead and drop that link for the votes in chat. I am very curious. I have seen some pretty divided feedback from the chat and frankly, from my DMs about this entire debate. So I'm looking forward to it. As I mentioned, for all of the people over there on YouTube, I'm going to drop the link here in the Discord room chat. Although if it's easier for you, AVG, I can send it to you in DMs as well. There you go. You can just drop that link into your chat, and everybody who wants to is able to vote on it. I'm also going to go ahead and throw that onto my own other platforms for anybody watching over on YouTube and Kick. Kick and YouTube. Ooh, it looks like we actually have another question that came in. It's kind of late now, kids. Shit. Yeah, well, I mean, somebody paid the money, so we're going to do the goddamn time. So give me 1 second. Let me pull that back up. I'm putting the link here first. There we go. Control V, boom. All right. Back to that question. Let's see what we got. Looks like, okay. That is a word that I have never seen before. I hope that it is not an inappropriate word, but I'm going to ask it again anyway. Does she have a spiritual father at all as a catechumen? Is that the word you said? Catechumen. Yeah, okay. I've never seen that before. Obviously, it's something about catechism, and it's related somehow. Yeah, I'm unfamiliar with the term. This attitude seems like something he should know about, apparently. So that one's not really a question, I don't think. That one was more just a 2 cents worth thrown into the pot. So that said, everybody, please go ahead and click a link there in the chat.
I can't address it.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. Fucking get after it. I didn't figure you'd want to. Yes, no, it's yours. Yeah. Do you have a spiritual father at all? And are you going to tell your catechumen spiritual father about this attitude?
So I do have a spiritual father. He's a great spiritual father, by the way, and he does know I debate, and I am not an apologetics debater, which would be the only thing he would have a problem with. If that person has a problem with me debating other things, cry harder. Sorry, you little snowflake. All right, that's all. That's all I have to say about it.
All right, no worries. All right, cool. So
gotta love the haters.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And for what it's worth, having the conservative on conservative hate crimes like this are absolutely just mind-blowing to me. I think it was funny whenever Zach made a comment about having more tame leftists come at him before. So that said, we're going to go ahead and throw this over to the judges. I personally don't get to weigh in on this. So again, I'm glad because I don't know where the fuck I would land on this one. But I'm looking at you, gentlemen. Chat, you guys, make sure you click your vote, because if the two of them don't agree, and there's a pretty good chance they won't, then it's going to fall into your hands. So, Doomer, sir, you are up first. Are you ready to render judgment for them?
I can't. I'm still trying to figure out how to word this. I know Tyler's always chomping at the bit, so if he wants to jump in, feel free.
No worries. Tyler, I assume that you are... I just need to tell you, Tyler, that your picture right there is triggering the fuck out of me. I guess that makes me a snowflake as well. But I'm very, very offended by that, and we will be having words after the stream. Anyways, are you ready to render judgment?
Go. Yeah, I'm ready to go.
Let's hear it.
All right, so AVG had I think, a winning argument that she said really early on, and I completely abandoned it. It was about how technology closes all these gaps and all these downsides that he's bringing up could have been mitigated with that argument, but she never went back to it. I really didn't like the refusal to engage in cross, whereas when I asked Zach a question, he was like, yeah, you know what? Your question's fair. My stats are a bit too broad, and I was having a hard time finding them. I really appreciated that his candor and his can-do attitude. Zach making an economic skill specialization argument, showing dependency, makes us the greatest nation, et cetera, et cetera. I think he won that exchange, and I think that was the best argument that was given here tonight, was that he was saying, like, look how dependent you are on everybody else in this skill-based economy. Over and over and over again, I did not hear a sufficient argument for that, and it cut deep at the prompt. AVG in the beginning was bringing up 700,000 people living in the woods as proof that fully independent people can exist, and that her standard is something that, you know, super strong people can actually do. But then later on said that was unfair framing, and then when asked about it, didn't really give me why she transitioned from one end of that to the other. Zach brought some good data, but I feel like both of their data wasn't really too specific on the community for me. It was about individual personality traits that a person who's independent might have more often, or what happens to people that are lonely in isolation. None of this showed me like a difference between somebody in a community and not in a community. We're just going with some likelihoods that we have to just guesstimate on. I think the data could have been a little bit better, but I give it to 4 to 6 Zach.
All right, 4-6 to the negative. All right, Doomer, was that enough time for you, sir?
Yeah.
All right. Go ahead and let us hear it. I'm going to drop the link a couple more times in the chat for everybody. Please make sure you get those links locked in. Go ahead, Doomer.
So yeah, I actually enjoyed this prompt a lot more than I thought I would. I'm more of a sucker for like the political kind of prompts, but this was a nice break from that. I really liked the openings. The only thing I felt lacking from both of the openings was a lack of definitions. I think even Zach brought it up later. He had that, but kind of went away from it. I am a sucker for those definitions and why your arguments meet these kinds of definitions and whatnot. And I agree with almost everything Tyler says in his kind of judgment. Especially about like argumentation and stuff like that. I feel, funnily enough, that Zach actually made more of the affirmative argument for me, with kind of that overall broad reliance on a community being overall detrimental without it. Like if you lack that, I feel almost makes the argument that that means they are weak and dependent on that system. I feel that AVG probably could have hammered him on that and pretty much just agreed, and that would tank the prompt almost. I felt that part wasn't pushed as much, and I felt that AVG made more affirmative arguments on why, like, introverts and why, like, other people don't need that reliance to be strong. While I felt that the prompt was more accurately argued for the affirmative by the AF here, which is why I'm giving it a 7-3.
7-3 for AVG. And for what it's worth, yeah, I did actually, she did call out or made a comment about him conceding the prompt. She just didn't really like you said, hammer it home. All right, chat, that means we are split, as I expected we might be. So please get those last minute clicks put in, because it is in your hands. Once again, I do want to say that we try our best to avoid the ad homs. We do our best to try to let people finish their sentences, to try to actually like engage with the arguments, etc., etc. But I did sort of feel like this fell off the rails quickly, and I'm looking forward to doing my editing so I can see how and what I could have possibly done as a moderator to help keep it on the rails. But I bear full responsibility for that as the person who's supposed to be steering. So
Scottish. It was
yes,
fun.
ma'am.
Come on.
Oh no, it was a blast. Yes, ma'am. But again, like I said, the slight difference here in the DMZ, the only thing that sets us apart is the fact that we try our best to engage here without shots fired. We try our best to try to engage with like each other in the best faith we can. So, but it doesn't always land, and I try not to tone police if I can avoid it. Like I said, I also know that this is not a safe space. I say this all the time. It is definitely a contentious space, but we try to keep it a respectful space. So with that said, when people start firing, I mean, you got to fucking defend yourself. This is America here. So, all right, people, we are going to go ahead and look over and see those who rely on communities. All right, we're going to go ahead and see where the votes have landed, everybody, in about 3, 2, 1. Show me the results. Wow. Okay. 16-10 votes. We've got 6-4 in favor of the negative. Zach. The audience has spoken, and it looks like they broke the tie, and it is in your favor. So, our second debate of the night, everybody. First of all, we have a new debater in our presence again. This is 2 new debaters we've had tonight. Welcome in, new debater. Absolutely. So, Game Boy is going to be on the AF, and Ghosty is going to be on the negative. The debate is moral facts exist independently of human experience. Game Boy, tell everybody a little bit about yourself, who you are, where they can find you.
Low key, I'm not that interesting. I just kind of lurk around, and I stand by my decision and the 10-10. I was proven right. Anyway, inside joke.
Yeah, that was indeed. So basically, you can find Game Boy here is his point. And Ms. Ghosty, if you would be so kind as to introduce yourself to the chat, let everybody know who you are, what you're about, and where they can find you. I'll drop your link in the chat.
Hi, I'm Ghosty. The G in Ghosty is spelled with a 6 because it's my lucky number. Anyways, I'm on YouTube. I do debates, talk about politics, philosophy, religion, or whatever the fuck I want to talk about. So yeah, thanks for having me.
Good stuff. Yes, ma'am. Our pleasure. Okay, so we're going to get right into it. You got to see how the format works. I assume you don't have any questions. If you do, just hit me with a DM. We're going to kick this over to our AF first. 3 minutes is going on the clock. Game Boy, please tell us why moral facts exist independently of human experience.
Okay, so low-key, I'm going to open up by saying first and foremost, I don't have a prepared opening because I first want to see the arguments against objective moral facts, because just like objective morality, a lot of people have different interpretations, and I don't want to give my opponent any misconceptions about what I believe. I want to first hear why they think that they can stand on the ground of subjectivism. Because as a Muslim, I'm going to be different from a Christian or an objectivist or something like that. And second off, can we all admit Orthofoid kind of sold? The only reason I voted for them is because they have the Virgil Abloh on. That was a terrible debate. Let's be so for real. I do fuck with the Off-Whites, though. That's crazy. That's crazy work, genuinely. Anyway, no opening today, guys. Not my first time doing this. Probably not my last.
All right. Well, it's not a whole lot for you to really be able to cross-examine there, Ghosty, but ask whatever questions you want of Game Boy. Use this time as you see fit. It's your 3 minutes to control, ma'am. So go ahead and start when you're ready.
All right. So you
don't
believe
have to ask me questions.
you believe morality is? Do you believe morality is discovered or invented?
It depends. Low-key, there are certain moral facts that I think, okay, from your perspective, this is objective, and these aren't really debated. Multiple cultures hold this view. But oftentimes, I feel like objective moral statements or moral facts are found on the grounds of subjective views. So a different culture may apply the same moral truths throughout through different ways, because even though it's the same underlying foundation, say killing's bad, we have different laws in place to prevent killing, or different ways to help people from not being killed. So I think many ways are invented to address these moral facts, if that makes sense.
Okay, so if they're invented by humans, that means that
No,
morality.
the moral facts themselves are not invented. I'm saying the way in which we interpret the moral facts may be invented, and that's not the term I'd use, but maybe adapted throughout cultures and individuals to address how they apply those moral facts onto their own life. Because say oh, I don't want people dying. That is my morality. Okay, well, you don't want people dying. How do you stop people from dying? Universal healthcare? That's a good start. But if you're in a war, hey, maybe killing people and you're a utilitarian may lead to more people living. That's what I mean by invented. Adapting those moral facts in different manners.
Okay, so you're saying they're discovered, but they're interpreted differently through different cultures and stuff. So your
God, I
basis
hate
for your
No,
basis
no, I
for
was talking about Tyler.
okay, is your basis for objective morality like grounded by Islam, your faith?
My morality is grounded by a God. Yes,
Okay, so do Christians have objective morality?
I would say so.
If they're different moralities, how can both be objective?
Well, I didn't say they were correct, and I certainly think that the Abrahamic religions do have an overlap between, say, the commandments and a shared history and lineage. I would say that just because something is wrong doesn't make it any less objective, because they still believe, hey, it's not independent of cultures and people, but it is a shared, like, it is something that is intangible and something that is a constant, which makes it objective.
All
Well, for
right.
something
If
to
it's
be
wrong,
okay.
Yep, real quick. We're done. We're out of time on that. It's now your time, uninterrupted, ma'am. 3 minutes is on the clock for your opening. Go ahead and start it up whenever you're ready.
Okay, yeah. So for something to be objective, it must be absent of distortion by interpretation, prejudice, or personal feelings. So if you feel like your your morality values or whatever, your set of morality beliefs are objective because maybe you were raised in a certain religion, or you just feel that way, or that's how you interpret the Quran or the Bible, and inherently that doesn't fit the standards of objective. Also, if you believe that morality is objective, that would mean that it exists independently of human experience. So that means it's part of like the fabric of the universe. It's a part of nature. So if we agree that if we say that hurting a baby is immoral, so if a tornado sucks up a baby and hurts it, is that tornado immoral? And you're probably going to say, well, no, it's not a moral actor. It only applies to moral actors. Humans have consciousness, blah blah blah. So I don't know, if it's a part of nature, I just don't understand how it would apply. It wouldn't. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't apply to anything else besides humans. Morals adapt over time. You even see this in the Bible. So how would you even know that your set of morals are the objective true ones right now, even if they did exist? Yeah, I don't know. Morals just adapt with knowledge, and I don't see any way how you could call them objective. How do you settle a disagreement between two different morals? How do you settle a moral disagreement, basically? Pretty much my opening.
All right. No worries. That is fine. We're going to go ahead and put 3 minutes on the clock now. Game Boy, it's your turn. Cross-examination or rebut as you see fit, sir. Start up when you're ready.
you say that morals are separate from personal experience, but how do you address objective moral frameworks like egoism or virtue ethics like Aristotle, which directly rely on personal experience and your personal ends, like what I'm trying to accomplish within my life, as the best means for morality? Like that, it is the right thing to do to prioritize your personal experience, which is directly reliant on that individual. Is
I
that no longer
agree.
objective morality?
I agree. That's my argument, is that morals
No, but
come from your personal experience and therefore they're not objective.
no, I'm not saying like there are certain grounds like not to give like a history lesson or anything like that, but like Aristotle believed that there were certain virtues that are prioritized by individuals, and it is the end of every individual to have accomplished certain virtues like justice, fairness, and kindness. And this was kind of like Christianity also has this view, and Islam has this view of like people are made with certain ends. Like you have to accomplish this in your life, and it's a very personal experience. And it is moral to say get closer to God or be kinder, have more justice, and these virtues and the individual actions are good or bad depending on how they strive to meet that personal end. And then is that no longer an objective moral framework because it relies too much on personal experience, even though it says there are objectively wrong things to do, like do an
What's
unjust act?
what says there's objectively wrong things to do?
That moral framework, which relies on, like, you must do virtuous actions to get a virtuous character. Like, that is what we consider by all scholars to be an objective framework, but directly relies on personal experience.
Uh, I don't know about that. I don't think so. If it's coming from your personal values and your human personal
No, they're not
experience,
personal
it
values.
is
They're
mind dependent, correct? It's
no, like, they're not personal values in the sense of like I value like for a religious twist on it, the values correspond with what God is. Like if you are doing things, they must align with God's will, but through your personal journey, like it is personal behaviors that align with what God's doing. Is that an objective, like moral framework if that relies on values that are not directly personal?
like like if a
He's not saying
person
you
believes
decide the
them.
values or like the culture
So
decides the value. You're
the
born with those
person
values that you have to correspond with.
the person believes that the values are commanded by God. Is that what you're
No,
saying?
All right, so
like not
it's
the
fine.
theory.
Just so you know, I'm putting 15 minutes on the clock. Y'all just go ahead and keep going into the open forum.
Okay.
Like one of those values may be it is right to be just. It is right to be kind. It is right to be strong. But the idea is these values aren't something the person believes, but rather things that exist separate of him that he must try to accomplish. But because they are values and not directly like right or wrongs, like a book that has rules, they are directly personal and rely on personal experience.
S- Sorry, I'm like a little confused. So you're saying that the morals, like morals can be factual. Is that like that's what you're arguing,
Morals
right?
are factual, yeah.
Morals can be true and false. That's what you're saying.
Morals
But
can be true or false,
because
but they don't
people
always have set rules. They can be more fluid, like certain values you're trying to attain. Like that's what the majority of people believed for a long time in history is you were trying to get closer to certain values, like or like there was an
So how
Eastern
do you
Orthodox
know
person here who like God has these energies, and these energies are things you have to attain to, like justice, fairness, kindness. I don't think kindness is one of them, but and these energies, you're trying to become one with those energies. Like those aren't anything like a set rules like you do with Kant. And there's probably better examples like Ayn Rand. Your main value is try to flourish and trying to be try to survive in the best conditions possible for your interest. Those aren't exactly right or wrongs. You can make them into right or wrongs, but they're just general values that are solely determined on your personal experience.
but you believe those are like a part of nature?
I'm not saying I believe them. I'm just saying those are objective frameworks that you like definitionally you're cutting out of being objective because they rely on personal experience. It seems like a weak definition to cut out things
I
that
mean, that
can
is the
change or
definition of
adapt.
objective, though.
Objective doesn't mean that they can't be personal.
Yeah, no, it literally means they cannot be
No, no,
personal.
because
No,
say
because the actual prompt is that morals exist independently of the human experience. If you have a personal human
yeah,
experience, and that's how you
but
get
like
your
if
morals.
God, okay, say God says everyone should be a good person, and you say, okay, well, being a good person is being like Jesus or being like Muhammad. So I'm going to try to live like Muhammad. Muhammad, as he lived through his life, wasn't always giving right or wrongs. There were certain things Muhammad acted out. that you should try to achieve like that. So there's a certain character that is Muhammad that you want to be like that character. Would you say that like that is a personal experience that Muhammad lived out? Same thing with Jesus. He lived a personal like life dependent on his there and now. And so not everyone can be like these great prophets. You have to kind of adapt and change throughout your time. So to say that morals don't rely on something personal while still being objective means that like well then they have to be some ancient written rules somewhere, which I don't think anyone believes. I don't think you can ask a single person outside of maybe some Kantian that morals don't change and adapt with your culture. It seems like a very stale understanding of it.
But do you think they exist regardless of?
I wouldn't be debating the prompt. I don't think just because there's a deeply personal experience with it, like some people have a personal faith, like that faith may not be right. Because I have a personal faith in Islam doesn't mean Islam is less right. It just means it's personal and it's lived out. That means there's not a set guideline.
So that makes it not objective, though.
No, objective doesn't mean concrete. Stuff can adapt and change while still being true.
No, that's not what that means.
Evolutionary principles don't stay static. They change with different organisms, don't they?
Well, yeah,
They're still
knowledge,
true.
not knowledge. Science isn't static. We are so like
Neither
our
why
truth
would
is
morals
based
be
on our
then?
current understanding of knowledge.
Why
Well, I don't,
yeah,
I'm
why wouldn't
don't think
that be the
morals
same
are.
way?
Yeah, I don't think
Why
morals are
would
static.
morals
I
be
think
static?
morals adapt
Then
with
what makes
knowledge
but then why wouldn't an objective moral realist also believe the same thing?
because they
How do you
believe that
confront
morals are a
objective
part of
morals with
nature. Like
not
so let me
everyone?
ask you a question. Are things good because God commands them, or does he command them because they are good?
That that's like the that's like creating a dilemma that doesn't exist. God is good because of the essence of goodness is attached to the essence of God. To be like God is to be good, and God can't be separated from what is good. Like that sounds like dumb, but like no one ever has believed that good can be separated from what God is because that would mean that good is either more powerful than God or that God can do stuff that isn't good, which would mean that God isn't good. God chooses to be good, which would be dumb. That would
Okay,
mean that there
well,
is something on par with God.
um, many Christians say that God commands goodness, or God commands things because they are good. So that means that goodness is a part of the fabric of the universe. This is what moral realists believe, right? That it exists
Why are you
independent
thrusting
of.
that onto them? Augustine didn't believe that. Thomas
Uh,
Aquinas didn't believe that. Like
so
you're
what is
saying,
it?
okay, well Christians believe this, but then you like if you look at what Christians believe, I don't think they do.
We can go to Plato, but like he had a
Plato wasn't a
dilemma.
Christian, and it was Socrates.
No, Pla- okay, so
Plato
Plato.
used his definition of forms to address that dilemma, but it doesn't mean that Plato speaks for all Christians or all people who believed in God. Plato didn't
Okay,
believe in God.
so the question that Plato addressed was, how do you know about a mind independent reality simply by just thinking about it, right? So you have to have a connection between reality and the thoughts themselves. And Plato answered this by basically saying, we have souls that were in heaven before we were born, and then we had some kind of contact with the truth makers, and then we forgot about the truth, and then once we're embodied into our bodies throughout our lives, we rediscover and we relearn these truths, which sounds very
How
silly,
did
right?
how did Plato believe in heaven? That he was in ancient Greece. There
I
wasn't a
you,
heaven. Was he in ancient China or something else? But I
you
don't
don't
see
think there's
how
different versions of heavens?
no, but how did Plato like what form of heaven did Plato believe in? He believes in
I
like
don't
the
know. It
world of
doesn't really
forms, but I
matter.
don't But like, if you're trying to make this like view of what Plato believed, I mean, at least be kind of accurate with it. Like, I think
It
Plato,
doesn't matter what
if
heaven it
anything,
is. Like, just the
no, but
fact.
I'm saying he probably didn't believe in heaven. Like, what's your source on that?
I don't know. I was just looking up philosophy today, and that's what I found.
Uh, Plato, from my understanding, uh, believed in the world of forms, which is more similar to what I'm saying morality is more similar to. That these are objective values and exist separate of the world, but people live life in a certain way to try to live and partake in those forms. Like that was his morality. And but that would also imply that, okay, Plato didn't live when we had cell phones or industrialism. How do you confront things that directly relate to that? Don't people adapt and change in a world that, like, your prompt suggested that people very, like, you said something about the Bible and how that adapt, like, morality adapts,
Yeah.
but
So how
like
do you know your current
times
morals
of,
are the objective ones?
well, that's the issue, but that doesn't mean that objective morality doesn't exist. That's just saying that there's an issue trying to figure out what's objective.
Sure.
Same thing with like math, like mathematic theories change all the time as we learn more. But I think most people can agree, and I would be hard pressed, and I'd be relieved if you found someone who said math was subjective. I think that there are axioms that say 1 plus 1 is 2, but there's different logistics. Like Russell doesn't believe everything that the next guy believes on how we got to 1 plus 1 equals 2. But there's a general understanding that we all agree that you take one water bottle and you put it next to the other, it equals 2. I think that's
Hmm.
similar to mathematics. Like, we may not all get to the same, I mean, same
You
thing with
think
morals.
morals are
Like,
similar to math?
well, in the sense that they're objective and that we
Like
learn more
how?
about
So
them.
why do we have like trials?
Trials, like legal,
Yeah. If morals are objective, we should just automatically know, right?
that's stupid. That's like, we we have laws in place to try to correspond with a moral theory that, okay, you shouldn't do certain things because that's bad for society, and everyone has a different view on that, roughly, but we all make claims that this shouldn't be done, this should be done. And we look at people and try to see how close they were to violating the law and how they should be punished in a just and fair means. Like, trials, I think, in most places, like you brought up Plato, like ancient Greece, they believed in objective morals but still had trials. And trials, I don't agree were fair, but to try to convict people on the grounds of you did this that was objectively wrong and we should punish you for that, but we don't know if you've actually done it yet, so we're going to figure out if you did.
Okay, so you're just figuring out. Okay, okay, I see.
If they, like,
If they
murder's wrong,
actually
but do I
did it.
know if Radish killed his wife? Like, probably
Do you
not.
think
We need
there's
to have a
some
trial of this.
right, but you agree that there's some moral dilemmas that are pretty complicated. It's not just black and white, as in this is absolutely wrong or this is absolutely right. Like
Yeah,
you
but
could do
so is the
something
world.
bad for the right reason, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
That's
So
why, like, that's what I'm saying. Like,
I don't think it's
some
as simple
moral.
as math. Like you can't interpret
Yeah,
math.
but if you think math is simple, then I don't think you've like. I'm not
I'm not
saying it's a
calling it
perfect
simple. It's just
comparison.
it's not
I'm just saying that,
interpretable like morals
yeah,
are.
but I'm saying that they're like, do you believe science? There is an objective world out there that has to be interpreted through certain means, like the scientific method.
Yeah, and we do our best to understand
Does that
it.
not mean that the truth still is out there and exists? We just struggle to interpret it, and that there are problems that come about it.
We struggle to understand it, like, to
Yeah, for
fully.
sure.
Like, we are limited, right, to our 5
Oh, I agree.
senses and our capabilities.
Yeah, and I think same thing with God. Like, not everyone's gonna fully understand what God wants. But hey, okay, we have the Quran out there. We have our religious institutions. We can roughly get a guideline of it, but we are still limited by our five senses and six if you're into that kind of thing. Like,
But so let me just ask, like, how do morals exist without the human experience? You think they're like,
why would
it's like,
morals exist if humans couldn't make choices?
exactly, that's my question.
I think morals are directly related on how people act in this world or how living things act.
Okay,
So
so
if
they're
living
mind
things could
dependent.
not experience, no, I think if morals couldn't exist without living things to act them out, then they aren't mind dependent. They're directly related to how people can address other things. Like, how would that be mind dependent? It would just mean that morals apply to how people act or how people should act. That's what morals are.
Well, because without humans, I don't really know how morality relates to the world in any way, right? Like animals aren't moral actors. Nature isn't a moral actor, even though they can cause suffering.
Yeah, but that would go back to like other moral theories. Like Aristotle believed, okay, a chair is born to do what a chair does. Not born, but created to do what a chair does. People are born to act moral, so the things like being fair and being just, people should adapt around the world and change what they do on a day-to-day basis to try to be moral because that's what they're born to do.
Why should they do that?
Oh, are we out of time? Or can I get
Oh, you're
muted?
muted.
Well, that comes to my specific view that Allah made people to try to be his people, and if you stem and stray away from Allah, then well, then you're not doing what you were made to do, and you should do your best to try to change your behavior. But that's specifically my religion.
All right. So I'm going to um, go ahead and kick this over to the Q&A section. That was a great conversation. Thank you both for not yelling and insulting each other this time. But I also felt like there was still a little bit of talking past each other. So it seemed like it got better towards the end. So I'm hoping that the rest of this is going to go well. I have a question for each of you, as do the judges and chat. Remember, if you have a question in for this one, throw it into the jar. Game Boy, I'm going to go first with you. If you believe that moral facts exist because of a higher power, which is what you said, correct? I don't want to misquote you.
Yes.
Okay. If you believe that moral facts exist because of a higher power, then why do you believe, or can you contend with the idea that there are biblical activities that we now find immoral? Why did the morality change if the morality was objective as written by that higher power?
I don't think that Allah ever did anything that was deemed immoral, just things that only apply to those set people. Like, if circumstances change, the way we apply moral principles also change. You can't have something that was like, you can't assume that the environment and the people and the issues that people dealt with, say, in 2000 BC are the same that we deal with in 2000, post-industrialism, post-digital era, and all this stuff. So therefore, everything that we still take as moral, like killing's wrong, people suffering are wrong. Like, just take people suffering is wrong. People suffered in different ways, and the abilities in which we can enforce certain principles has also changed. We can do more now to help people suffering than we ever before could in human history. So I think that changes how we apply moral principles. It's applied morals versus theoretical morals, if you want to say that.
All right. Doomer, are you ready with a question for Game Boy?
I need a minute.
All right. Tyler, let me hear your question for Game Boy, please.
All right. Your argument here seems to be, and this is a clarifying question, so if I get it wrong, let me know. Your argument here seems to be, let's say justice just exists as this energy out there, this entity out there, and how each group particularly perceives it is at face value an equal attempt to obtain this objective moral truth of this entity of, let's use justice. So before scrutiny is applied, all of these attempts are equal. They're based off of interpretation and circumstance. That's what differentiates them. Isn't that just moral relativism?
My whole back and forth has mainly been to clarify certain things that I think have been misinterpreted about objective moral realism. I don't particularly agree with the Eastern Orthodox view of um, morality, nor do I agree with Ayn Rand, nor do I agree fully with Aristotle. My whole point is to say that she's making the assumption that since objective morality exists, it must inherently be separated from personal experience. And I'm saying I don't know a single moral theory that has ever separated itself from how people act or how people adapt to their environment. I am saying that moral principles and moral values exist separate of personal belief, but that does not mean personal experience. Say I experience life different from Radish, which is objectively true. That means the way that I say stop suffering or give to the poor is definitely going to be different than how Radish would do because I'm dealing with different people and different capabilities.
Okay. Are you ready now, Mr. Doomer?
You know, both of you pretty much stole my questions. I'll try and phrase this one differently.
Sorry, bud.
All good. Again, I don't want to put words in your mouth, so kind of clarify me if I get this wrong, but you're pretty much saying morality is objective, grounded in God, interpreted differently by other cultures. If their God declared cruelty is good tomorrow, does that just mean cruelty becomes good?
There is only one God, and that is the one and true Islamic God of the Prophet Muhammad. So if another false God proclaims a false morality, then it is inherently immoral.
So if you got a whisper from Muhammad tomorrow, animal cruelty is all good, you would go start torturing cats?
I would say if Allah himself came down in another book and said animal cruelty is totally fine, which isn't anything that contradicts any other part of the Quran. Well, sure, I'm beating my puppy all day, all night. But I don't think Allah would say that because Allah is all good.
Okay. So, Ghosty, it's now going to be your turn for some questions. Once again,
Okay.
I have a question for you first, then both of the judges. We do have some questions coming in from the chat, but we're going to get to those after we're done. So, Ghosty, try. This is going to sound kind of crazy, maybe, and I'm not sure. I haven't actually said it out loud, so I don't know if it's dumber than I think it is. But how would you contend with the idea that self-preservation is both a moral duty to oneself as well as a biological imperative? And if that is the case, which all of the reading that I did seems to say that both of those things are true, that self-preservation is both a moral duty to oneself as well as a biological imperative, does that not mean that that moral duty exists beyond and or previous to human experience? In other words, like an animal trying to defend itself and keep itself alive would be a moral necessity for itself or a moral duty for itself. Therefore, it would exist outside of human consciousness.
I wouldn't grant that survival is like a moral or immoral. I think survival is amoral. So, sorry, can you define imperative I'm really bad at
Sure.
vocabulary.
No worries. No worries. It's a compulsion. It's something that you have to do whether you want to or not. It is something that
Oh, okay, yeah.
you are instinctively compelled towards. So in other words, if again, like I said, I found multiple definitions, and self-preservation was defined as a moral duty to oneself. So if that's the case, then that moral imperative exists whether you want it to or not. But if you don't have to grant it, again, I just wanted to hear how you'd interact with that, or how you'd contend with that idea.
Yeah, no, I don't grant it as a moral action. I would just say survival is good because it's a desirable, it's something we desire. And like you said, it's kind of intrinsic in life. Like life just wants to survive. So, but yeah, I wouldn't put like morality on that.
All right. No worries. You know what? I'll go ahead and go to you first this time, no, you first, Doomer. So that way we can't steal your question, because I know you didn't plan to ask the question I just did.
Yeah, if morality depends on humans, can anything ever truly be wrong? Like, for example, was slavery objectively wrong before society recognized it, or only when they adapted did it become kind of a wrongful thing to do?
Yeah, so this is a good question. So, no, like technically, no, it's not like true that slavery is objectively wrong. Now, I personally believe that slavery is wrong, and I also personally would assume that the people who owned slaves knew it was wrong, but they did it anyways out of greed or, just selfishness. So, but no, there's nothing that you could really say for a fact this is wrong. Unfortunately, it's very inconvenient, but it's how it is.
Okay. And Tyler, your turn, sir. Question for Ghosty.
All right, Ghosty. So, do you think that there are some truths like, okay, so preservation of life and harm reduction are two morally objective so-called truths that exist? And I want to ask you, do you think because we can observe actions like these in maybe the animal kingdom from lesser beings, that could be some form of proof that they're truth? And just because they're not able to form an entire consistent system around it like we are as greater beings, doesn't that give you some proof that they just exist as concepts?
Well, you're saying,
I feel like this is similar
Are
to
you
the question that I was asking, but he's just forming it better. Say it again please, Tyler.
Yeah, okay. So, for preservation of life and
okay.
harm reduction are the true truths the moral truths I'm gonna go with here. Because we can observe animals in the animal kingdom acting in these specific ways to tap into what we would see as actions that fall under these moral truths, can we not then surmise that these things are moral truths, and just because humans have the higher capacity to develop systems and consistency around them doesn't mean that they don't exist for every other being?
Well, first of all, I think if we're judging animals' actions, I think we would consider them, like many of them, to be immoral. Like the way certain animals kill other animals in very gruesome, cruel manners. But like again, I think in order to be moral, you have to make a decision. You have to make a conscious decision. So, no, I don't think that survival instinct in animals proves that there is some kind of moral system in nature. Also, could I give a really quick response to the last question too?
Absolutely.
Okay, so to the slavery thing too. So I don't think that there are moral facts, but I do think that one way to decide if something is moral or immoral is to see the outcomes of certain actions. So when you enslave somebody, you can visually see that this person is suffering, not happy, not enjoying it. So although, I can't say for a fact that slavery is inherently wrong. I think that doesn't mean that you can't determine morals in general, like what is a good way to act and what is a bad way to act, if that makes sense.
All right. Now, it looks like we do only have one question coming in. Ooh, thank you very much for the $5 there in the tip jar raiser. So, if humans were gone, would the animal kingdom follow these objective morals? And if so, how? I believe that this would be a question for you, Game Boy. So, if humans were gone tomorrow, would the animal kingdom follow these objective morals?
I think humans inherently have a different definition and different application of what it means to be moral versus what an animal does. I think for an animal, they do live moral in the sense that they live to survive. They wouldn't intentionally hurt themselves or the animals around them. But I don't think, in the same way that we consider morals to say apply to humans, that I would even grant the fact that animals have objective morals beyond that. And I think morals are inherently something that we do apply to humans because, okay, we are conscious animals and they are sentient, although I think that's a broader debate. So I don't want to tug on that horn too much because me and vegan back in the day had like 2 hour debates on that. So
Okay. So for what it's worth, if you think that animals are capable of or are follow
you're assuming
morality,
animals have morals.
sure, and
I
you
was being
clearly
vague on that earlier.
you've never owned a cat because they're vicious fucking creatures. But that's it.
Yeah, but I do beat the dog.
No, of course you do. All right. So thank you both. I'm going to go ahead and kick this now over to you guys. You both are going to get 3 minutes on the clock for your closing arguments. We're not getting any more questions coming in, so this is all y'all. Game Boy, you're up first, sir. 3 minutes is on the clock. I'll start it up when you start to talk.
I will say, kind of crazy slip. Are we not going to acknowledge the whole that I do believe that they thought? No, I do believe they know that slavery is wrong. Like that's just a slip. I ain't going to attack that too hard, but crazy slip, like Freudian levels. I just wanted to say that this whole debate, at least this far, has been definitional. Tyler had that like question earlier, and I wanted to clarify. I'm not saying that I believe all the theories I put forth. I'm just saying the idea that we have static objective morals that exist separate from personal experience rather than principles that guide personal experience is a clarification I would like to make forth. Most moral theories that I've ever seen put forth, at least, excluding Kantianism and like a few other like hodgepodge, has been there are values or principles that people should strive for and should be done in a broad manner, adapting, ab- adapting to their environment. So, Christianity, Islam, Judaism, especially, all three Abrahamic religions say strive to be like Christ, strive to be like the energies of God, strive to be like Allah, and have this character. It's very character based rather than rules based. That means there are virtues and actions and a mindset that should be cultivated, like cultivating your garden, in order to change and adapt as a person to do and be a moral person. That means your actions are moral based on how that affects your character. Same thing with Buddhism. Okay, you want to reach enlightenment, you adapt your character to reach enlightenment. Actions that are wrong or right are how you strive to reach enlightenment. It's very personal. It's very personal experience, personal this, personal that. That does not mean it's personal preference or personal belief. The belief is still these things are objective and they're objective in the world. Buddhism, these things are so objective. There is enlightenment, there is a reincarnation. These things aren't just personal belief. but you still cultivate your character and your personal journey in order to reach this reincarnation. So my whole thing is, if you're going to say objective morality doesn't exist, don't say that objective morality doesn't exist outside of personal experience, because I don't know anyone who would even strongman that to say that objective morality doesn't adapt and change with the person and environment around them.
All right. So we're going to go ahead and kick it over to you now, Ghosty. 3 minutes is on the clock, uninterrupted. Go ahead and tell us your closing thoughts.
Okay, so I think Game Boy contradicted himself a couple times. He first, when I asked him if Christians have objective morality, he said, yes, they do. And then eventually he said that his moral beliefs under Allah are the objective morality, and any other faith that has their own morals makes them automatically immoral. So that kind of contradicts itself if you think Christians have objective morality, but yet you're calling their morality immoral because they're not the Islamic set of morality. I also think that when I asked him if morality is discovered or invented, and he said kind of both, that kind of concedes the debate right there. If you think morality at all is invented, then it isn't mind independent. Therefore, it would be mind dependent. So you can't have all of these different values be objective at the same time. If you have prejudice or personal feelings are involved or interpretation is involved, which every religious set of morality, I don't know how to word it, every religious morality value sets they're interpreted. They usually have bias and prejudice because you're born into it, typically. And it's your belief, right? It's called faith for a reason. It's your belief. Just like my morals are what I believe. There's no way to confidently settle a dispute between two opposing moralities. So, like he said, morals do adapt over time. I guess you could argue that, okay, well, there is an objective set of morals. We just can never know for certain that we know the correct ones, which in that case, it's just kind of useless at that point. If we are never able to truly know the objective morals, then what's even the point of calling them objective? At that point, I don't even think they exist. So, yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say.
All right, good stuff. All right, thank you very much, Ghosty. Thank you very much, Game Boy. Great job, both of you guys. I appreciate it. I appreciated the tone and the engagement. We're going to go ahead and kick this over to the judges. So, Average Debate Enjoyer actually asked if he could go first because the dogs that somebody said they were going to go beat need to go outside. So, Tyler, if you would be so kind.
That, bro?
Yeah, who indeed. So, Tyler, if you would be so kind, sirs, to go ahead and render your judgment. I'm going to drop the link in the chat. Everybody, please click this vote because these two judges disagree on most things. So there's a good chance you're going to probably be the ones who make the decision for them this time as well.
Tyler hates me, bro. Tyler hates me.
I don't know that that's true. I don't think anybody can hate you, Game Boy. But, all right, everybody, let's listen in. Tyler, where did you land on this?
All right, so there was a ton of wasted time by Game Boy in the start. I absolutely hate him for it. He's 100% right about that. So clearly Ghost won the introduction phase because he didn't even participate. But it ended up actually being, again, as Game Boy said, he noticed that I made the prescription. There's a low-key definition debate. There wasn't much bickering about dictionary definitions. It was kind of in the backdrop as the theme of the debate. But in this, Game Boy was arguing that truth is essentially an entity, like a scientific truth yet to be discovered, and we disagree on the methods of which we try to perceive it. Justice as a truth doesn't give you the exact right system and the exact right laws and the exact correct jurors every single time. Like, the system's going to have some flaws to it. That doesn't mean the truth itself doesn't exist. And I feel like he had to explain that 4 times, and I just never heard a good definitional argument for it. Now, Ghost did have a second definitional argument and was objecting, kind of imputing him of making a subjective morality argument, because how we all interpret justice is different, how we all implement the systems is different, and things of that nature. I think it was all right, but he addressed it well enough in his closing, and there was no rebuttal to what he said there. So I feel like Game Boy, as the affirmative, kind of set the tone with his argument. His argument went unchallenged, so I gave this to Game 8-2.
Really? Okay. 8-2 for Game Boy from Tyler. Go let your dogs do their business. Just so you know, Ghosty, I sent you the link in DMs so you can put it into your chat as well for the votes. Doomer. Yes, ma'am. Doomer, are you ready to render judgment, please?
Yeah. So first off, I will say I hate these prompts. The debaters did a great job outside of Game Boy for missing his opening. Yeah, I felt that the biggest like summary of Game Boy's arguments kind of came down to like the objective morality is based off of like God or some kind of like divine command. And I found that the argument somewhat that like the objective moral statements and facts are built on subjective views. I can see that argument. I kind of think that it's kind of just like kicking the can down the road almost, because I think like if you have two parties with, you know, so-called objective moral like standards or whatnot, and they contradict each other, I don't know how you resolve that if just divine command alone is kind of how you square those. I don't see the mechanism to kind of verify the objectivity in the argument. Outside of that, I I actually gave it the inverse score 2-8, and I took a point for missing that opening. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, no, that's exactly what I expected was going to happen, that the two of you guys were going to disagree like that. And I would ask for nothing less. So, okay, we are going to go ahead and say one more time, chat, please click that link. You should be able to see it right there. And I'm going to drop it one more time. Did I make sure? I did. I already dropped it in the other two streams. Ghosty, your audience should also be clicking on it by now. I'm going to talk for just a few seconds to let everybody get their votes locked in. This one is definitely going to have some fucking conversation in the after party. And specifically, I'm going to have some hands with. I'm gonna have some hands with AVG, or I'm sorry, there's two AVGs now, with ADE Tyler Aid. That's it. We're gonna have some conversation with Tyler Aid in the after party about his statements there, because I personally take issue with that score, but that's okay. We will see how the audience felt, and based on what I'm hearing from Game Boy, things are not going very well for him over there. So, with that said, I do want to say thank you to both of you guys again. I'm going to, regardless, drop y'all's links in. And as I said with the previous debate, I really hope that you guys stick around. I am going to go through each of these prompts in the after party, and I think we're all going to get pretty twisted up about them. I also want to address what Doomer said there, in that I didn't love these prompts myself. This is going to sound like a cop-out, but I have to do it nevertheless. I do not choose the prompts anymore. I do not make the prompts anymore, at least not most of them. Most of them are submitted by the community, and they go through the judges panel before it goes out to the actual prompt list. So, if people have problems with these prompts, have it out in the fucking server before I put them on a list, please.
I'll clarify that real quick too.
Yeah.
The prompt is fine. I personally hate the philosophy type prompts. Like I said before, I'm more of like the political.
The political and yes.
Kind of stuff.
Same.
So,
bro,
yeah,
I don't like this either. I was complaining that I got it the entire time, bro.
Well, you know, you always have the ability to turn down a debate, Game Boy, but that's okay.
And can I admit something?
No, you cannot. Not until. Okay,
bro,
well,
I lost it.
Well, the chat called you out for it, bro.
I misread the prompt and contradicted myself the entire time. I DM'd Radish right after it.
Yep. And
My
and
bad.
and the
I thought I was
chat
arguing
the
the
chat
neg.
called you out for it instantly when you were doing it. They're like, is he making a better neg than the neg? Is that his
I
goal
was
here?
making a neg argument against someone who's doing neg,
We
bruh.
know,
I'm so
we
sorry.
saw, and that's why I'm going to have words with Tyler after this, how that shit got past him,
Bro,
and how he
Tyler,
scored
bro,
it 8-2
he
when you
shouldn't have
didn't even
voted
give
for
us a
me.
fucking opening. But again, I'm going to save that for the after party. I'm a little
Oh,
heated.
I don't need
I'm
a
a-
new opening anymore.
I'm a
They're
little
obsolete.
heated. Oh, fuck off. All right, let's see what the chat said.
I
Does the
never
chat
give our
does the
opening.
chat think your fucking opening was obsolete? Woosah. My goddamn
I
cardiologist
lied
is
about
going
my
to watch this
religion
and
the
be
entire
mad at
time,
me.
chat. Bro, I don't deserve to win this.
You didn't. Okay, so I'm locking it in right there. Ghosty is winning 11 votes to 9. That is a 55 to 45, which translates to a 6-4. 6-4 from the audience. Ghosty, great job, great performance. Thank you very much. Yeah, we round up because it's 10 points, and that's the easiest way to do it. So. It should be legal in the U.S. to marry more than one person. I don't know how this is going to become contentious, but somehow I think it's going to. So we're going to go through it again. Vigi, on the affirmative, will you please tell everybody who you are, where to find you, and what you are about? I'll drop your link in the chat.
Yeah, so I'm the Vigilante TV on basically all platforms. I mostly stream here on Twitch. I do political streams and debates as well as gaming content sometimes. I haven't really streamed lately though, unfortunately. I need to get back into that. Yeah, this is gonna be interesting.
All right, cheers. And Mr. Emmett, will you also, you are mute. Oh, you got it. Will you also please tell everybody who you are, where they can find you, and what you're about, sir? I'm dropping your link in the chat.
Yeah, my name is Emmett. I have a YouTube channel called Count Emmett. You can find me at Count Emmett in YouTube. And I do different stuff over there, so thank you for having me on.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure as always. So I will reiterate, please try to keep this as good faith and above the belt as we possibly can. Engage with each other's arguments where possible, and let's hear it. Vigi, 3 minutes is on the clock for your for your opening, sir. I'll start the clock when you start to talk.
Yeah, so the state has no logical reasoning for restricting the number of consenting adults in a marriage, denying ethical non-monogamous marriages, criminalizes a private relationship between consenting adults, which harms no one. This is an indefensible use of state power under secular democratic principles. Yes, marriage is sacred, not just to religious people, but to secular people as well. It represents a commitment between consenting adults. People get married so they can have a fulfilling, loving partnership and build a family. This is a personal autonomy choice made between consenting adults. There's no logical reason that we should deny that right to partnership that include more than two people. The Supreme Court precedent already agrees with this when we look at the many cases we have surrounding marriage. Obergefell v. Hodges, centered on marriage being a fundamental right rooted in personal autonomy, dignity, and the freedom to define one's own family. This logically extends to ethical non-monogamy. If the state cannot restrict marriage based on gender, then restricting it based on the number of people in a marriage is just arbitrary. In Loving v. Virginia, the unanimous court held that marriage is one of the vital personal rights essential to the pursuit of happiness. Ethical non-monogamy is a practice that has multiple benefits to those who practice it and the family members of the people who practice it. You get a greater emotional support system. The division of labor in the home is more spread out because there are more people to take care of the home. And an economy like what we are in now, the more income that you have, the better. Because it's nearly impossible to live off of a single income nowadays. This benefit extends to the family and the children in the extended family and any children in the home as well. Marriage is a legal institution in the United States of America. It is not a religious one. It is practiced by religious groups, but it is not a religious institution. Therefore, it should be expanded to accommodate religions that accept ethical non-monogamy. Because one of America's founding principles is that religious freedom. There are multiple religions that accept polygamy and ethical non-monogamy as a religious practice. The prime examples of this are Islam, Mormonism, paganism, and Unitarian Universalism. So not only does having a ban on ethical non-monogamy fail to meet a logical and legal standard, it also oppresses religious minorities. I'll see the rest of my time.
All right. Well, then in that case, Mr. Emmett, 3 minutes is on the clock for you to use as cross-examination or rebuttal. Use it as you see fit. I'll start the clock when you start.
Before we move forward, what do you think is the purpose of law?
The purpose of law is to restrict things that we as society see immoral.
Society will see immoral. Okay. Do you think lowering the IQ in the general population would be something that is immoral?
I mean, kinda. I mean, the only way that you can really do that is by failing to teach people problem-solving skills.
Teach?
So,
Teach? Do you think you can teach IQ?
IQ, the system that tests for IQ is based off of problem-solving skills. So, yeah, you teach problem-solving skills.
Okay, so you can just teach IQ. Okay, interesting. I've never in my life heard that before. It's usually not a teachable skill, but I guess we learned stuff today. When it comes to you said that we should be able to do that, right? Because it's in accordance to the law and religious minorities. If a practice in a religious minority includes, for example, let's call it child sacrifice, would you be in favor of it because it's some kind of, religious freedom?
You're conflating. This is a false.
Just answer the
equivalency.
question. I'm not asking about conflation. Just answer the question, yes or no.
This is a false. This is a false equivalency.
I'm just asking if you are willing to accept that as a religious freedom.
I would not accept murder as a religious freedom. There is a
perfect.
dark difference between murder and sexual freedoms.
Yeah, I wouldn't either. How about the marriage of your cousin, as the Islamist would?
Generally speaking, we consider incest immoral.
That was not the question. The question is whether or not you would accept the marriage of cousins as illegal because of religious freedoms.
This is another false equivalency.
It's a you question. Can you answer it?
No, I'm not going to engage with bad faith questions.
No, you're not going to answer the question?
Real
okay,
questions.
Fine.
I'm not going to answer bad faith questions. Answer real questions, buddy.
Okay. It's okay if you don't want to answer. Okay, fine. If you have if you have this idea that we consider to be immoral, and that's the reason why you wouldn't accept one of them. I mean, we think we accept that multiple wives is immoral. Why would you accept it in accordance to you?
We don't necessarily consider it. So the reason
we do consider it immoral. It's in fact, you said it yourself, right? It's to avoid, to prevent actions that are supposed to be immoral in society.
Ethical non-monogamy is not actually banned in the United States. There is no criminalization.
It is banned right now. You cannot marry more than one person. It is. Thank you. So the time is over.
Hold on. No, you can date. You can date more than one person.
Yeah, it is over. Thank you very much.
All right,
yeah,
that's.
I can finish.
It's okay. Go ahead. Yeah, I'm all right with Vigi answering the question. Go ahead.
Yeah, so it is not banned in the United States. You can date more than one person. There is no laws regarding.
We're talking about marriage. We're not talking about dating.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I was actually going to clarify the difference between non-monogamy and polyamory, for what it's worth.
There is no difference between non-monogamy and polyamory. It's the same thing. Ethical non-monogamy is just another word for polyamory. The only thing that is restricted.
We're talking about marriage.
I'm sorry, I meant polygamy. I apologize. I meant polygamy.
Polygamy is just the act of having more than one wife. It
right.
is a type of non-monogamy.
Okay. All right.
Ethical non-monogamy is the overarching term.
All right, fair. All right, so we're going to go ahead and go over to you now for your opening. Mr. Emmett, 3 minutes is on the clock for you, uninterrupted. Go ahead and start it up.
So, first of all, I will be thank you very much for the debate, to both Horseradish and to Vigilante. I will go ahead and say that when it comes to the idea of having these kind of behaviors legalized, we're talking about that making them available for everybody in it. Now, usually what I would say is that this will probably go directly against the idea of the children. Most of the children in families are way more secure in between with their nuclear families. We're talking about biological father and mother. If you look at the stats, which by the way is impossible to get any stats in polygamy, in polygamous couples, mostly because they're almost non-existent, because we have decided that it's an immoral action. But if you look at the stats that we have access to, which is when it comes to step parents, the likelihood of abuse skyrockets. There is a bunch of different things. They have a little bit of a stat here. So the threat of death for younglings is about 60 to 120 times. You're 8 times higher of having kinds of sexual impropriety. I can share the stats later on if you want them directly, Horseradish. But you know what? Like, we're talking about lefties, so who the hell cares about the kids, right? If they're gonna go with a meme, oh, please, somebody think of the children. In reality, what we're looking at is another problem is the destruction of the society itself. What we see is we're gonna be generating the kind of structures that Islam has in the Middle East. In fact, he even mentioned this himself. He wants to allow the Islamists to go ahead and create a society in which they will go ahead and marry every single one of their cousins and lower the total IQ of our country. Oh, why is that bad? Have you seen fucking Sandyland? It's incredible that they breathe sometimes. This is how, well, it's very simple. They go on, they marry a bunch of their cousins, and they have kids. They probably have less IQ than the next generation, and they do it again the next generation. Now, we also have the problem of in polygamy, which is the one that's probably going to be the most accepted, the most usual, in which most of the women are going to be going for the top percentage of men, which means you're going to have a bunch of disenfranchised males in your society. You're going to be moving towards authoritarianism. Why? Because they're disenfranchised. Unfortunately, I don't have that much time left. So what I would say is, when it comes to the idea right now, it's impossible that we can have any kind of good thing or any kind of movement towards what we consider to be moral, except for Kuming. All he wants to do is allow more Kuming, because that is the good in accordance to him. And he's not trying to find anything that is actually good. Why is the reason we want to do it? In fact, he didn't do it. He just talk about what feels good. Thank you so much.
All right. 3 minutes is now on the clock for you, Vigi. Cross-examination and or rebuttal. Use it as you will. I'll start it when you start to talk, sir.
Yes, you argued that plural family structures harm children, correct?
They do.
Yeah, so are you aware that there are multiple studies showing that not just having multiple adult figures in your life actually helps the development of children, including ones on polyamorous families?
What do you mean? What exactly? Well, wait. First off, I will have to ask you about the specific methodology, because I was looking at any kind of the numbers are extremely small, and the sample size are completely out of the question. So,
Yes,
what do you mean by having multiple? What do you mean by having multiple people or multiple adults in the kids?
Yeah, so there are multiple ways that we can look at this, because technically speaking, when we're talking about having multiple adults in a child's life, we're not just talking about polyamory.
Are you
We're
talking
also
about
talking
mom,
about,
dad, grandpa, grandma, and the other
we're
grandpa
also
and the other
talking about
grandma, and maybe uncles and aunts? Are you talking about that?
we're also talking about extended family here. Yes. So when we look at
Okay, so it
hold on.
doesn't. Listen, that has
It
nothing
is
to do with them
very
living with the
well.
parents.
It is very relevant, because the whole point behind those
No.
studies the whole point behind those studies shows the fact that
Mhm.
the more adult figures that are in somebody's life, the better the outcomes, right?
So if let's say that you have a complete broken family, would you have two sets of stepfathers? You have mom and stepdad, and then you have dad and stepmom. Is the kid more or less likely to be abused?
Statistically speaking, I'm not 100% sure. On
Oh,
that
you
one.
don't know.
That is not
Okay.
something that I looked into.
Do you have any other questions?
So are you aware of Dr. Elizabeth Sheff's study, that 25-year study on the outcomes of polyamorous families?
Nope. How many parents?
Here, I will send it to Radish real quick so that way he can pull it up on screen.
Thank you.
Yep.
And I will also
You should be
DM it
able to
you
tell
as
me
well,
how
so
many parents
you
were
can
in
pull
the
it up.
study. You should be able to tell me that. How many parents were in the study? How many families?
That I mean, I didn't actually look at because I
Oh, you
was
don't know.
what's the outcomes, because the outcomes are what matter.
The outcomes are what matter. So the methodology of how you got to the numbers don't matter. No.
The methodology does matter to an extent, but considering
Listen,
we are talking
okay, let's put it this way: if I have 3 families and those 3 families came out, let's say, good, is that a study on the general society?
we're not talking about the general society. We're talking about niche case example here, buddy.
Well, it would be against the general society, right, buddy?
No, because it's a niche case example.
No, we're not talking about the general society. We're gonna put these in the general society. We don't take into account the general society.
Even if we allow hold on, if we allow this to happen, do you think everybody is going to become ethically non-monogamous?
Does it matter if everybody does it? We're talking about upping the likelihood of that happen, right?
Yeah, we're just legalizing it. So the only people who are actually going to do it are the people who are already engaging with it now.
Does that mean that everybody's gonna have a gun?
No.
But is it more likely that people will have guns?
It is more likely, yes.
Yes, perfect. That's exactly what we're doing. We're putting in the ethos so that more people will be more likely to be a part of these, right?
Like I said, this is something that that is already practiced because we don't criminalize it. The only difference is that the people don't get married currently.
We do we avoid it, and we say that it's completely unacceptable in normal society. We make it as a bad thing to do when it comes to the original, and it should be criminalized.
We provide a slight restriction to where if you practice ethical non-monogamy, the only thing is that you cannot get married to anybody but your primary spouse.
Yes, you can't get married. That is a deterrent. That's a big deterrent to most people. Most people want to get married.
No, it's not a deterrent because we don't criminalize adultery, so there's no fucking deterrent there. Like, do you not understand what the deterrent would be?
Welcome to wrongness.
Why should we legally criminalize adultery?
It's a wrong action. It destroys the family unit. That's why.
Where is it wrong? Who says it's wrong?
Okay, do you want to have a morality debate now? Okay, fine. I'm not gonna go to the morality debate. I'm gonna grant that we're consequentialist. The consequences of having people going out into the ethos and being complete degens outside of marriage is the destruction of the marriage. That is a consequentialist action.
You can't make a consequentialist argument without grounding it in a morality. So by extension, you are already making a moral argument.
So you want to go into grounding of morality, my preferences. What about yours? Because you're gonna tell me that's gonna be your fucking preference anyway. So it's gonna be my preference versus your preferences. And then we can go to consequences. Fine, yeah, there we go. So in consequences, there you have in the moral
it's not my
action.
Fault. You don't want to make a fucking
what's going to
argument,
happen at the end is you're going to have a divorce, which is going to lead to the destruction of the family unit, which will put the kids at risk. That is the point.
Divorce already fucking happens.
Yeah, let's make it more prevalent, right? Let's make it more likely to happen.
Where is your proof? Where is your proof that Where is your proof?
Oh, what is my proof? The
legal-
moment that we
legal
allow
law
divorce to be quite literally, the moment we
where
allow
is your proof
divorce
that
to be
it
for
will
whatever
make more
reason, what
divorce?
happened to divorce? The moment we allow divorce to happen for any reason at all, what happened to the divorce rate? Do you know?
The divorce rate went up.
But went up, exactly. So now we're gonna allow more degenerative behavior to happen within marriage. What do you think will happen with divorce that is allows you to get out of it for any reason? Oh, divorce will go up. Okay, so now we have a
Divorce
complete
rate would stay
allowance
the
of
same.
bullshit to happen. We're putting kids at risk, and we're going to destroy more family units. So consequentially, this is a complete destruction of the idea. Why should we allow it? Why should we encourage it? Why should we allow the government that is supposed to be there to enforce what you said, our moral standards, not enforce it?
There is the government doesn't have a specific moral standard outside of what society deems that we want to allow.
Yeah. Why should we allow the government to allow these that society has deemed to be completely undesirable for hundreds of years? Why should we just allow it now?
There are multiple societies that still practice ethical non-monogamy.
I'm not asking you about other societies. It's not about what about them. It's about our society. Why should we allow it in our society?
We should allow it because it's something that is normal and happens all over the world.
And it's because you like to cum. That's the only reason why. Because you think, oh my God, I'm going to have another one to cum to. I just love to cum. I'm a libertarian and I'm willing to pay more in taxes and do anything away when it comes to my society as long as I can fucking cum. That's the only reason why. Right? It's about cumming?
No.
Oh, it feels good.
It's about
my pee-pee feels good. That means I should do it.
It's about personal liberty. It's about personal liberty.
It's about
and
personal liberty.
autonomy.
It's about personal liberty. You don't care about how much you pay in taxes as long as you can have the personal liberty to go on and cum, right? Should you have the personal liberty to damage kids because it's your personal liberty?
Look, if you want to say here and make personal attacks, I'll make personal attacks back, buddy.
You can do
let's
whatever
avoid
you
that.
want. I'm not even making personal attacks. I'm asking a question directly. Should you have the liberty to damage kids because it's your personal liberty?
You have no evidence that this actually damages kids, and I have plenty of evidence. Again,
I am going
that it
to
does
ask
not
that
damage
question
kids.
again until you answer it. Should you have the liberty to damage kids because
You're making an unsubstantiated argument. I am not going to engage with it. Make a real fucking argument.
You're gonna engage with it? Yeah. So when we see that, when we see quite literally that there is abuse on, on at least, let's talk about SA. There's an 8 times more likelihood for a kid that has step parents in their home to be SA. 8 times higher than the norm.
We're not talking about step parents. We're talking about pluralistic marriages.
There's going to be one that's not going to be the biological parent there, right? At least one.
Yeah, but the biological parents, in most cases, will still be in the fucking home, buddy.
At least one of them is going to be a step parent. If there is a step parent, there's an 8 times more likelihood of them having some kind of sexual impropriety. So if that is the case,
where is your source for this? Where is your source for this?
Oh yeah, I can give you the source. Don't worry.
If you do have a source, I would like to see that as well, please. Yes, sir. You can GM it to me, or you can drop it in chat, whichever you want.
Yes.
I'll even stop the clock real quick so we can get to that.
Yep, I can. I can type in this in the channel, so I need to send it to you directly.
Whichever one you prefer. I can get it either way.
I just can't. It doesn't load the back channel, the back chat. So.
Okay, yeah, no. You can also DM me. There you go. Yeah, that's perfect.
8 times more likelihood. Yeah. So I can send it to you, Vigilant, if you want to put it in the back chat.
I'm gonna put it into the actual Twitch chat so the audience and viewers can see it as well, so they can peruse as they see fit. All right. Is there a specific
the question now?
Real quick, is there a specific place? Do you know where it says those numbers? I can just look for them, but I didn't know if you knew in there and save me some time. Again, the time is stopped, so we're not on a clock here. There we go. Specific reports of violence involving step parents, I assume. Child abuse is a serious problem that affects millions of children worldwide. Perpetrated by step parents are unfortunately not uncommon. Research conducted by the Canadian founders of evolutionary psychology found that the rate of infanticide was 60 times as high as sexual abuse, and sexual abuse was about 8 times as high in step families as in biologically related families, according to Brody E.J. 1998. Similarly, research conducted in Brazil in 2010 found that Brazilian mothers were more likely to mistreat their children if they had a partner who was not the child's biological father. That is Alexandre G.C. et al. 2010. So you guys can continue from there.
So now, would you be willing to answer the question? Should you have the capacity because of your personal liberty to damage kids?
So there are studies on what this actually looks like in
Are you
ethical
going to answer
non-monogamous
the
households.
question at all?
There are studies on how the
Should you
ethical
have
non-monogamous
the
households.
liberty? Should you have the liberty? Okay, your personal liberty to damage kids? Yes or no?
No, you shouldn't be able to damage kids, but there is no evidence that
Okay, perfect.
ethical non-monogamous households actually damage kids. There's actually plenty of evidence stating the otherwise.
No,
So
yeah, and you cannot tell me about
just,
them. When I asked the methodology, how many families did they get? Oh, I don't know. How many kids were they surveyed or were they checked? How many? No, how long was that happen? The only thing you know is that it happened during 25 years somehow. How many families? Do you know?
how many?
Because I tried to find the numbers to actually.
I'm going to go ahead and stop the clock again for you, Vigi, to look that up as well. If you have counter information, I'm happy to hear it and pull it up.
It quite literally said that that when it comes to data, the data sets are extremely small. And I wasn't able to pull out the data in and of itself because of how small the data pool was.
It was 40 families over the course of 25 years. The
40
one that I'm
families.
specifically, yes, over the course of 25 years. It was a long-term study.
Yeah.
So
Long-term studies
are going to have
population in the
smaller.
United States?
Long-term studies are going to have smaller.
How
pools
big
of
is the
people that they
population of the
study.
United States?
I don't know off the top of my head. It's a couple million people.
You don't know? Do you know anything
It's like 3 million
about
people.
the topic of the debate?
Or something like that. No. About the
No?
topic of the
Okay,
debate,
I
yes.
agree.
You're asking a bunch of irrelevant questions.
I'm asking a bunch of irrelevant questions about how is it a good idea to do this kind of bullshit? You couldn't even answer the question. It's like, should you have the personal liberty? It took forever. I had to show quite literally that it damages kids in order for you to even answer that question.
Yeah, you're using
Like,
an argument about step
You're using
parents
40 families to make you're using quite literally 40 families to say that it's good in general for a lot of people, or I mean for all of the United States to allow this kind of behavior. When we see that the moment you put strangers in the home, kids are way more likely to get abused.
You're talking about you're talking about step parents. This is irrelevant because step parents come in after the fact, after they are the parents have already broken up. Plus, this is you're talking about monogamous households. Yeah. Also, I'm not just referring to the studies about polyamorous families.
You can have a polyamory in which there's two people, they have a kid, and 3 years later they find somebody else.
I'm also referring to the studies that talk about how having the extended family heavily involved in the home, because that's a lot closer to what that is a lot closer to what it is when you add parents into the home. It is extending the family. It is creating a bigger family. It is not replacing one parent.
Your point is mute, okay? It can be the case in one of those families that they start off as monogamous, and 4 years later, a new parent comes into the home. So it's not like, oh, they were always this way. You can add people at will. What is the idea here? You're gonna tell them when they're gonna get a third wife?
No.
Oh, you can only have a third wife between the first year of marriage. Otherwise, you cannot have another wife. Is that what you're gonna do?
No, they can bring in
Exactly. So there's no limitation in this. It can be the case that a lot of another guy comes later, another girl comes later. You don't know.
Again,
It has nothing to do with that. It's a
a
mute
new
point. When
parent,
it comes
a
to the
new
extended
parent, a
family,
new
I agree that
parent,
extended families
a
are
new
good,
parent,
but it has
a
nothing to
new
do with
parent,
the
a
core
new parent,
family.
a new parent coming into the home is not the same as one parent being replaced by a completely separate parent. They're two completely different things. There is a false equivalency.
But we don't know that, right? Because at the end of the day, we have no data on this. We have 40 fucking families.
Yeah, so we are using this
Yeah, we have
moral argument
families,
based off of
so-
a false equivalency, to try to tear down my argument.
It's not a
all you
false
have,
equivalency. It's a
yes, it is.
stranger. It's
It
a stranger
is.
coming
It
to the
is a
house.
it
It's
is a
a
false
biological
equivalency.
stranger.
It is a false
When we
equivalency
see
because
when we see
it is a false
biological strangers
equivalency.
coming
It
into
is
the
a false
house, the kids are
equivalency.
way more
It is a
likely to
false
have
equivalency.
bad
It is
outcomes.
a false equivalency. It is a false
It is not.
equivalency because
It
of
is
the
not.
fact that you are using studies based off of monogamous step parents to argue against
But we don't know if
the
they're
act of
monogamous, right?
polyamory.
We don't even know if they're monogamous. Because at the end of the day, what we see is that when there's people coming, strangers into the home, we see this kind of behavior skyrocket, especially against kids.
Your source is
That was the
literally,
point
trust
of
me,
the whole
bro,
thing.
this applies to
The point of my
polyamory.
whole argument was that. What?
Your whole argument is, trust me, bro, this also applies to polyamory, not just monogamy.
No, your whole argument is, trust me, bro, this won't happen in polyandry or whatever it is. Oh, trust me, bro, we're ethical. We just want to go ahead and go more. It's fine, bro. It's
You're
not going to affect
strawmanning my
anybody.
argument again. You did this in your opening. You're using the same straw man again. This is not my argument.
Yeah, trust me,
my
bro.
argument,
Trust me, bro.
My argument is that what the data shows is that when we expand the family out and there are more adult influences on the children, there are the influences and the
just
results
positive.
are
There's never a
mostly
negative,
positive.
except for the fact that they get abused more, right? When it comes to step parents.
Having parents gets you
I literally told you. I'm gonna ask you this question once again. Now that you have the data. Now that you now that you have the data. Now that you
having parents in
general, one at a time, gentlemen, please. The audience cannot hear you guys.
Now that you have the data, Vigilante. Now that you have the data, Vigilante, it's very easy. You have mom, stepdad.
It's still a false
you have you have mom, stepdad. You have dad, stepmom. Is it more or less likely that kid is gonna get abused?
That is where you're talking.
More or less likely.
The study is on monogamous relationships. It's irrelevant.
That's not the question. Can you please answer the question? Is it more or less likely?
We don't have any data on this whenever it comes to polyamory.
Is it more or less likely that a kid that has 4 parents, in a way, 4 influences, okay, adult influences in his life, is it more or less likely that he will get abused?
In separate monogamous relationships where the other parent has no influence over the other person's relationship, yes.
Okay, so the amount of adults in their life doesn't correlate.
There is a reason this
be a good or a bad, right?
There is a reason this data is irrelevant. It's because the biological parents on both sides have no influence of what the other parent does because they are in monogamous relationships. This is a completely different dichotomy. What you are presenting is a false dichotomy. You are trying to
not a false dichotomy. We're talking about interpersonal. We're talking about families. We're talking about
by utilizing a false dichotomy.
We are talking about interpersonal. Well, the reason why I brought it up is because you said that the most amount of adults in the life of the kids is gonna showcase that it's better for the kid. I just showcase that that's not the case. When you have 4 parents in a household, the kid's way more likely to be abused. So unfortunately for you, there's not that much information when it comes to triples and quintuples and sextuplets and whatever degeneracy you want, because you like to fucking cum when it comes to the amount of abuse that's going to be for the kid. There's like 40. There's only one. There's your fucking study with 40 families in a 380 million. Okay, population state. So I don't know how I can get do that to the general population, telling everybody, yeah, you can. Guys, red pillars, what you guys are doing is great. Just have 50 wives. Fuck every woman. It's amazing. Yeah. Great fucking idea. Give the red pillars more fuel.
We have plenty of data on
Mhm.
whether or not having more adults within the home itself, so we're talking about multi-generational homes, things like that, how that has a positive effect on the raising of children, because there are more adults directly in their life. What you're talking about is not
Are you
more
gonna
adults
tell
being
me that
directly
4
in their
adults
life.
directly in their life is not more than 2?
They're not directly in their life
Is
because
4?
custody is shared. Do you not know what
Is
shared
4
custody
more
is,
than
dumbass?
2? It's 4 more than 2.
There is shared custody. They're not
Is
all
it
directly in their life at all
more than
times.
2?
They're not directly in their life because there is shared custody.
Oh, they're not directly in their life? So shared custody, let's say that they have shared custody, it's not directly in their life? No?
That is not the same as cohabitation. Cohabitation
What the
and
fuck do you
shared
mean?
custody are two
They go
completely
from
different
Monday
things.
to Wednesday to from Monday to Thursday in one home and Friday to
There is a
Monday
difference between
another.
there is a
So
massive
I'm gonna
difference
ask you
between what
once
you are
again because
talking
I'm not
about in
entirely
a
sure
broken
if you
home.
know what numbers are.
There is a
Is it
massive
4 more than 2?
there is a massive difference between what you are talking about, which is a broken home, and cohabitation, which is why the data you are using is irrelevant and false dichotomous.
It's not irrelevant. Is it 4 more than 2?
It is irrelevant because you are
Is
talking
it 4?
about.
Why can't you answer a question that simple? Okay, I really don't think you know anything about numbers at this point. Is it
Because you are
4 more than
trying to
2?
trap me into answering a bad faith question.
Well, we're talking about kids, okay? Having relationship with adults, and what is the likelihood of that be better for them? You're saying, oh, it's always better. I'm telling you directly right now that when you're talking about these kind of situations, when you have step parents, if you have, 4, you have the parents and the step parents, and it's more likely that the kids get abused, then probably it's not about the number, it's about the quality of it. And we're talking about extended families. Extended families are great. I like the extended families. We're talking about putting in the inner circle of the kid, strangers, that is where abuse is rampant.
All right, so I'm going to go ahead and jump on in there. I'll let you all go a little bit. I'll let y'all go a little bit past. We've definitely got some questions here, and yeah, once again, it was exactly what I expected it to be. Although, as I said in chat, I heard the word cooming tonight as many times as I heard contingent last night. So I'm glad I'm not doing a shot game. So that said, I have some questions. Yes. I'm sure my judges have some questions. We're going to go with you first, Vigilante. So you were talking about the benefits of multiple adults in a household, okay? We also know, though, that losing a stable adult from a child's household is, I would say, as bad as having multiple influences, multiple adults is good. So with that said, how do you balance the idea that in a polyamorous relationship, there is a much higher likelihood, or polygamous relationship? I need to start clarifying because we are talking about marriage here. Oops, sorry. And I need to fix that on the prompt. My bad, everybody. I apologize. I suck. Still learning how to do this. In polygamy, there is a higher likelihood of one or more members leaving the household group. Why would the negative effect of losing that influence not balance out the benefit of having multiple people?
So the negative effect is obviously still going to be there. It's going to be there whether you're in a polyamorous relationship or whether you're in a monogamous relationship, because losing influences, positive influences, is always going to be negative on a child. That's just an unfortunate reality.
Okay, fair enough. Doomer, do you have a question ready for Vigi?
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out how to word it, so let me try and follow through it real quick.
Yep.
I think you had mentioned Obergefell as one of the case laws that were supporting you. I will say in Obergefell, it does specifically mention that it's limiting marriage to 2 people, and there's also historical other case law that also reaffirms that marriage should just be to 2 people. And it does go into some valid state interests on why that is. Do you think that there is no longer any valid state interests? Like you disagree with those previously, or just those don't apply nowadays?
From my understanding, the valid state interests, when we talk about putting it to just 2 people, I would have been happy to get into this if we didn't get sidetracked on the kids thing, is actually just it's that is too complicated, and saying that we shouldn't do stuff, have the government do stuff because it's too complicated is kind of dumb in my opinion. That just means the government shouldn't do anything because the government doing anything is complicated.
Okay. And Mr. Average Debate Enjoyer, do you have a question ready for Vigi?
I do.
Hit him.
It seems like there was a back and forth, and I'm sure you wouldn't agree as much, but it seemed like the evidence was questioned fairly well, that there's not a lot of data on poly relationships. I think you said because it's something that we don't really see in the country. So Emma had a bunch of data, though, showing that the 2-parent household, traditional household, is the best way to raise kids. He brought it up in terms of outcomes. He brought it up in terms of abuse. If we know this is best practice, and we have a ton of data that shows this is best practice, wouldn't be getting rid of that standard and opening up marriage based off of what you said was, well, everyone else does it, so it's normal. Wouldn't opening it up because it's just normal elsewhere actually be immoral in some way?
I wouldn't say that it would be immoral. I mean, you can argue that there is the potential for negative outcomes. However, we don't really have any data to support that. Like I was saying in the debate, the data that Emmett was using is about already broken homes. So the data that Emmett was using is irrelevant because of the fact that it's about already broken homes. That's not dichotomous to what we are actually talking about. We don't have any studies on the effects of broken homes in polyamory, because the amount of people that are polyamorous in the United States is something that is just currently on the rise. There could be studies that are done in the future because it is something that is becoming significantly a lot more popular, but we don't currently have the data.
All right. Now, for you, Emmett. So I'll start again. First question for you, sir. By the way, we do have some questions coming in from chat, so you guys keep those coming in. We'll get to those as soon as we're done with ours. So your primary concern seems to be for the children. With that said,
well, that was the one we actually
you spent the most time on. Fair.
About.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I did mention also the destruction of the family, the fact that we create like underclass of men, and the lowering of IQ thanks to practices,
Sure.
for example, what we see in Islamic countries.
Yep.
That they just go on, they have a bunch of they marry a bunch of their cousins, and then that happens over and over again. So,
of course. So going back to what I was saying though, concern for the children was a significant part of your argument. So my question to you is, yes, we do know that marriage has a positive effect in elongating the length of relationships, that people tend to stay together if they are married. So if we know that a lot of these relationships, and I understand that in an ideal world, you would rather have nothing but the nuclear families, and those nuclear families last the entirety of the child's life. However, in the reality we exist in, we know that most marriages, a substantial number of marriages, I don't know the exact statistics, do end up failing. And then we end up in a situation where one or both of the parents is dating at least one, possibly multiple people. Would it not be beneficial, if people are going to engage in polyamory, for them to be able to engage in polygamy as an encouragement to make those relationships last longer and be more stable as a household for those children?
I would say that the introduction of people that are foreign, especially when it comes to biology, and it can be seen as weird, because you would think that most people just want to protect kids, but when it comes to people that are outside of the biologically, there's a higher likelihood of abuse simply because of it. And you see it as well in animal kingdom. So there are different animals, but when they have like these kind of communal experiences of taking care of the kids, even the mothers of different kids will go on and attack kids that are not their own. So it seems to be something that is adaptive to biology itself. I don't think it's good for the kids, in other words.
All right, got it. All right, Doomer, you're up first again, sir. Question for Emmett.
Yeah, so you did do a big focus on the kids and stuff. I'll also say you did cover other things. I also want to say that you mentioned some type of like authoritarianism or something protecting against that, but then didn't bring it up again.
That's correct. If
Um,
you want me to just give
yeah,
it a
please do.
rundown real quick about the authoritarianism, is that you have an underclass of men. Men are usually aggressive, so you have a rise up on gangs and other kind of proponents when it comes to that, and it will end up more and more. The government will go more and more authoritarian to protect itself from this rise of men that have nothing to lose.
Okay, and then my question, I guess, would be that with the big focus that you had on kids, specifically like the data you had with like increasing household size is a
Violence.
detriment. Correct, yeah. So would you say that that kind of evidence would be more supporting of like legislation to limit like remarrying if you have kids rather than reaffirming kind of restrictions on polygamy or polyamory?
Well, I just the thing that I see the problem is the introduction of non-biological people inside of a nuclear house. I don't think the
Well, that
I
would argue
agree
more
with
for
you
women
that
in that way.
we should absolutely limit the divorce, but I think the big
That
problem when it
answers it,
comes
yeah.
to kid is the introduction of non-biological parents into a nuclear house.
Did he answer your question, Doomer?
Yeah.
All right, cheers. And average debate enjoyer, question for Emmett, please, sir.
All right, Emmett. At one point, you were making an argument that engaged in something like with a higher likelihood of harm, that you're endorsing that harm that come to those kids. I believe you were saying that you're allowing these kids to be harmed. You're saying that any situation outside of a two-parent household, there's a higher likelihood of abuse. So that higher likelihood of abuse comes with it. For me, and I think for a moral argument that you were trying to make there, I think that the main factor is intent. So if you take your kids and put them in the car, that raises their likelihood that they're going to be harmed because you're leaving the house and going to a more dangerous area. But your intent is not to harm the kids. So if you get into a car accident, that's not morally wrong. So if the intent is not there to actually see these kids abused, is that actually allowing this abuse to happen?
Well, I'm not talking directly about the individual in and of itself. I'm not saying that individually these people would like to put the kids at risk. I'm talking about the likelihood of risk to be happening and what is the state responsibility to curb those kind of actions when it comes to protecting innocence. So that is that would be the difference. I understand your position when it comes to, well, is there an intent to cause harm? And if I was like a if there is some kind of utilitarianism in the idea that I look, that consequentialism that might be there in the way that we process morality, but the point is whether or not the state has some kind of responsibility to curb actions that put people that put kids at risk when it comes to innocent beings.
All right.
I hope that answered your question.
Yep, I'm pretty sure it did. Okay, so it's closing arguments time, gentlemen. Oh, no, wait, we do actually have a couple of questions coming in from chat. Actually, hey, shout out Razor with both questions. We're going to go with that first question here, which for some reason is going right here above my face, which is kind of annoying. So let's get that moved over there where it belongs. Sorry about that, everybody. I'm going to put that again. Let's see. From Razor. Does a larger family with more adults create a better environment for the children? In other words, a larger family with more adults create no strangers in the household. I believe that this is probably for Emmett because I'm pretty sure Vigilante used this as a argument. So to you specifically, Emmett, does having more adults who are not strangers, i.e., family, extended family, multi-generational households, does that have a net benefit for the children?
Yeah, I would say it does when it comes to extended families and multi-generational families. I would say it usually does, but they have like the full-on relationship when it comes to biology, so they're very closely related. So I would think that it does
For sure.
in that
Okay.
sense.
And so you believe that it relies more on the biology. Got it. Which you did make that comment in your debates multiple times. All right. Second question here, also from Razor. What is wrong with having various types of families in a society so long as the people are happy? Once again, I'm pretty sure this is a question directed at you, Emmett. And I'm pretty sure you actually did sort of address this one, but it gives you the opportunity to reiterate your position on this one more time. What is wrong with having various types of families in a society so long as the people involved are happy?
I think he mistyped a word there, happy. I think he meant cum. So when it comes to allowing people to cum, it's absolutely understandable that you would like to maximize cumming because you're a cummer. But when we're talking about the likelihood of abusing kids. So when it comes to that, we just want to minimize risk so we can have a healthier society. And that doesn't involve how much you get to cum, unfortunately for you.
Okay. All right. So, we got one more question coming in. This one from Chad Dad. Let's see. If have not been married, monogamous or polygamy, what makes you think you have any knowledge about what marriage is? Okay, so I guess the question there is, Emmett, or to both of you, have either of you been married before? I'll put this to both of y'all. Have either of you been married before? And are you currently married? Vigilante, are you married?
I am in the process of getting a divorce, actually.
Okay. And Emmett, are you married or have you been married?
No.
Okay. And so I guess the next question then would be, Vigilante, do you believe that having been involved in a marriage makes you more able to speak on this subject, or do you think that that people can weigh in on it regardless of their personal experience?
I think it's kind of a regardless of the personal experience thing. I'm not really a fan of using arguments that are based off of personal experience. I think those are generally speaking bad faith, and when you back your arguments up with, but my experiences, it doesn't hold up under scrutiny.
All right, cheers. And Emmett, same question. I assume I know your answer here, but I would give you the chance to say it. Do you believe that having participated in marriage would give you more insight into what is and is not marriage?
So I agree with Vigilante on this one. I would say that I don't know what I've never been a woman, but I know what the fuck a woman is, and I can debate, for example, abortion. So I don't understand what is this, complete fallacy of Tukwokwe. Like, oh, you have to be married in order to know about it. That's a what about you argument. Makes no sense.
Okay, you hear that,
Do
Chad
better,
Dad?
Chad Dad.
All right. Well, we also got another follow-up question from Razor, and for what it's worth, that question went into my notes for the after party. But he sort of wanted to clarify. I will include the snark that he put in since he paid good money for it. I need him to not put words in my mouth or imply my intentions. Please, just can you
never put anything in your mouth?
Just because you can't love doesn't mean others don't put love first. So I will reframe the question for him, since I think this is what he was trying to get at. You are using the cooming, and it's a fun word, and I hear you. I assume you mean sexual gratification, right? We're using that word to represent sexual gratification. Do you believe, Emmett, that the only purpose of a relationship is sexual gratification, or would you concede that having that a significant part of it is support and or love?
I would need to have more clarification of what he means to be happy specifically. Usually, what I mean by cooming is
Let's say
that they're
satisfied.
actually not thinking about. talking about Kumin specifically is that they're not talking about the other aspects of the relationship in general. They're doing this as a degenerate act, and what they're actually thinking about is, oh, I can cook with more women. I can be more degenerate. So
Okay.
that is the point of the tongue-in-cheek of the argument in and of
Sure.
itself.
But can you concede that some people might actually have a polyamorous yet also sex-free or intimacy-free? Like there are some relationships who are non-sexual but are in a long-term committed relationship based on mutual love, respect, and support.
I mean, are you talking about your parents? What we're talking about here? Like,
I'm saying that we live in a world now where there are a lot of asexual couples.
I've never met any of them, so I'm gonna go ahead and just say that I am completely ignorant.
You believe they're unicorns? Nope, I got it. Fair enough.
Yeah, I don't believe that they exist. I believe that most of the time when they're saying this kind of bullshit is just to be online and get brownie points.
Fair enough. All right, cheers. So we're going to go ahead and go to we're all done. Yep, we're going to go ahead and go to our closing arguments. So, gentlemen, 3 minutes is on the clock. Vigi, you're up first. Go ahead and start the clock whenever you start to talk, sir. Let us hear your closing arguments.
Yeah. So we didn't really hear any substantive argument from the negative here today, unfortunately. All we really heard was a racist rant filled with comments about incest in the Middle East, and straw manning, using that to straw man and talk about how, oh, if we allow polyamorous relationships because we also allow we also then would allow incestual relationships because religious freedom. No, there's a substantial difference between a polyamorous relationship and an incestual relationship. An incestual relationship does have negative effects, therefore we actually should limit it that. A polyamorous relationship, we don't have any actual evidence showing that it has a negative effect. All we have at the moment in time for him to say that it has negative effects are fallacious and bad faith arguments about comparing broken homes to cohabitation. Whereas he brought up fucking step parents and from broken homes and the rate of the abuse with broken home situations versus I was talking about the statistics when we actually have multi-generational households and how having more adults cohabitating in the home actually brings in positive outcomes for society. And he relegated all of the arguments down to just people want to coom, people want to goon, blah blah blah. Look, this isn't about cooming. This isn't about gooning. This is an actual legal argument based off of the rights that are brought to us from Supreme Court precedent as well as the Constitution. So I'm gonna read part of Obergefell real quick because it is significantly relevant to the question that we're having right now, and that's under the Due Process Clause of the 14th Amendment, no state shall deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. The fundamental liberties protected by this clause include most of the rights enumerated in the Bill of Rights. And then he names a Supreme Court case. In addition to these liberties, these liberties extend to certain personal choices central to the individual dignity and autonomy, including intimate choices that define personal dignity and beliefs. This is about personal dignity, and it is not about cooming argument where low quality men won't get laid. If you don't have a personality, you're already not going to get laid. I'm sorry.
All right. We're going to go over to you now, Emmett. 3 minutes is on the clock for you, sir. Go ahead and start when you're ready.
Yeah, I find it funny that these retards decide to just go on and attack me at the end. Why wouldn't you do it during the debate? I would like to call you a retard to your face. It would be way more easier. Okay, his whole argument is quite literally, trust me, bro, okay? As the phrase says, the lack of evidence is not evidence of absence. whether it's the fact that we don't have the numbers right now because that's not done, it's being considered to be completely immoral during all of our time, doesn't mean that there's not going to be effects, especially effects against the people who are most vulnerable, like kids, in our society. His whole thing has been, trust me, bro, trust me. Okay, I just want to cool more. Well, he says, oh, it's not about cooming, but why would you want to have 5 wives? Exactly. Who is the people who are saying that we should have 20, 50 wives? Oh, yeah, the red pill. What is their great idea of how to treat women? Oh, you just have to go on and coom a lot. That way you'll know women. It's just this is quite literally in a sense is the idea of, oh yeah, you can just go on and do as thou wilt, and there's no consequences of it. But in reality, there are consequences, and we can see the consequences. And whenever we add the strangers into relationships, when it comes to the kids, okay, biological strangers, what happens? The likelihood of abuse skyrockets. He goes ahead and calls me a racist. Oh my God, I'm so racist for pointing out that the IQ in the Middle East is way lower. For pointing out that over there, what happens is they go on and they marry their family members, not only one, but a lot of them, and they do it multi-generacy. And I don't know if you know about the rat people of Pakistan, but they're doing great in accordance to you, right? I must be racist for pointing it out. Oh my God, the racism, horrible. What is it? What is the way he had from his side? Trust me, bro. We'll look at 40 families about 25 years, and they seem to be fine in my obviously not one-sided study. In my defense of my numbers, okay, they were literally just taken from broken families. Yes, they're taken from broken families. But what we're looking at is the correlation of adding people that are not biologically related and what are the effects on the kids. That is the point. This is the thing he never actually understood, apparently. It's like, oh, he's not relevant. Of course it's relevant. It's relevant to the point of what kind of things are we doing that can put kids in danger, can put our society in danger. We're already having a problem when it comes to interpersonal relationships. Why make it worse? Why? And that he never said why. He just said, oh, well, I like to coom. Thank you very much, Horseradish.
All right. All right, good stuff. So we're going to go ahead and throw the link in chat. We're going to get through the voting as quickly as we can, because I do know that some of our East Coast debaters have been like, this one took a little longer because of the information and the fact checking and such. And I want to make sure we get a chance to get some after party words in with our East Coasters before we dip, or before they dip. So that said, I appreciate you both, gentlemen, for your debate tonight. Chat. Who do you think won this argument? Do you believe that it was Vigilante on the affirmative, or do you believe that it was Emmett on the negative? Go ahead and click that link right there and let us know. I'm going to go ahead and also, you know what? In case anybody else is watching, if the two YouTubers are watching, I'm going to send them the link as well. That's you, Ghosty, and UAVG, so that we can get your audience's vote and weigh in on this topic as well. That would be swell. And while we're doing that, we're going to go ahead and go to our judges. Judges, this was a pretty tough one too. Like, this has been, all 3 debates tonight have been a thing. So I'm going to look at you first, Doomer. Doomer, are you, sir, ready to render judgment?
Yeah, I think I can get through it.
Let me hear it.
So I like this prompt. I gotta say, kudos to Emmett. Every time you've shown up, I've been super impressed with almost everything you've put out there. I will say in this debate, both debaters left a little bit for me to be desired. I really liked how, like, definitionally there wasn't really anything like ambiguous in this debate. It was all pretty laid out. Vigi, I felt, made a weaker opening when he said that the primary reasons for this to be legal was a lack of like reason for it to stay illegal, pretty much. And then kind of further clarified it later on with some other things, like the past state interests being like burdens to process and whatnot. Emmett, on the other hand, I felt made a lot of good arguments, but I don't feel that they were very persuasive to the prompt as much. I kind of asked it a little bit in my question to him, like how the evidence he's presenting doesn't support more like a ban for like remarriage. And he clarified that, well, yeah, he would actually support like a more ban or cap on divorce or whatnot. I feel that that kind of shows that his evidence isn't quite supporting the prompt as much as it could. And actually, going back to like that valid state interest, I feel like he could have made a lot more ground on this prompt, going back and looking at actual U.S. case law to see why it is currently set up that way and the historical reasoning for that. And then have Vigi kind of say why that's not the case anymore, or why it's, not relevant. Maybe disagree with that premise entirely back then. But I felt Vigi kind of made the more persuasive arguments. That's why I'm gonna lean it to him. 6-4.
All right. That is 6-4 from Doomer in favor of the AF. Tyler, I'm sure you're going to totally agree with that. Let me hear your judgment, please.
Well, first off, this was kind of a fun debate because at a certain point, it just got down to both people threw their citations on the table and then started reading the tea leaves and playing tarot cards as to interpretation. It was almost like a debate style fucking Yu-Gi-Oh battle with citation cards. It's pretty fun in a way. Intros were both fine. I don't like that Vidge refused to engage with some of the questions in the cross. The cross is the time where you kind of have to go down the path they're leading you. You did it just fine in the debate. You said, hey, that's a bad faith thing. I'm not answering that. And sure, that was perfectly fine. Testy was yelling too because Emmett took over Vidge's cross. Testy's yelling in the chat, bro, you got to take your fucking shit back. Like, Emmett kind of bullied him out of it. So I gave Emmett points for that, but all those points that he got for winning the introduction completely went out the window for him saying Coomer because it made my skin crawl. So I had to take him away. So they went into it pretty even. Vidge, I like that you quoted SCOTUS here, but all you did with SCOTUS was tell us why the wording would allow this to be legal. And then when you were asked essentially why this is a good thing, you said, well, it's normal and other people do it. But then you're telling us it's so rare the data is scanned. And you link this study of 20-something families, I think Emmett said. I didn't hear that refuted, so.
It was 40.
Sorry. Well, still, yeah, it's still a pretty small sample size, so thank you. I went to the justification as to why, because you guys gave citations, but neither of them were exactly polyfamilies. One of you went with, this is what an extended family does, and that's because it's in the household. That's your argument for why it's similar. It's not a broken home. And I went with step parents because of the interchangeable parent factor, non-biological parents coming in. And it could lead to a similar abuse that we see with step parents because you're kind of bringing in that. And I feel like in those exchanges you won. And what really this almost never changes my mind. Horseradish asked a question about that, and when he did that, he brought up the fact that poly marriages are much more likely to see a partner leave. And that Emmett didn't give that point, but then he started using it, and I kind of feel like it gave him something for his argument that he needed, and he ended up winning the exchange in my mind because of that. Both of you guys were using you both were making arguments as to why your slightly related data set was the better data set, and I feel like Emmett pulled out and won that exchange, so it was close. I gave it to Emmett 4-6. So I guess judges are tied.
For 3 consecutive debates, the decision lands in the hands of the audience, which ultimately I think it should. I think that's kind of exactly the way I want it to happen. So that means that I've chosen my judges as well as I've chosen my debates and my debate partners. So all right, everybody, you've seen the link. You know what to do. Click it. Tell us where you landed. If you're seeing it in other people's, again, I've already given this to the other streamers tonight. Hopefully, you can actually see it in your stream now, Zach. Now that we got the shared chat thing going again, I think. So, with that, We're going to give it just a couple of seconds. I do want to go back to the two of you. I know it got a little contentious. It got a little spicy there, but at the end of the day, I felt like both of you were actually trying to engage for the most part with each other's arguments. There were just a few parts where you guys were sort of talking past or more sword fighting than debating. But I appreciate both of you all showing up tonight. I appreciate all of the debaters tonight, as I always do. And I actually, while we're waiting and we're giving it a second for the chatters to get that last vote in, this is a big deal. This is a really big deal tonight. It's a big deal to me anyway, because this is the first time that we have had enough tips come in that I'm actually going to be splitting the tips with the participants. So I have said multiple times, if we ever hit $30 or more in tips in the night, half of that is going to the winning team and the judges split across the 5 of them. It's only going to be like $3 and I'm probably going to wait until I've got at least 10 in the kitty for each of y'all before I bother using the PayPal transfer fees. But just know, this has been an awesome night for the chatters, and the chatters have been more engaged tonight than they ever have been before. So that said, I appreciate all the debaters again. Now let's see where they landed on this debate. I've got about 3, 2, 1. Holy shit, that is a lot of people responding. Let's fucking go. And we're locking it in right there. 20-16. That is a 6-4 win for Vigilante. So this is the slimmest of margins, but the audience has spoken and they believe that the AF pulled this out by 1 point. Thank you again to all of tonight's debaters, and above all, thank you to all of the viewers. We wouldn't be here without you. The DMZ happens live on Twitch, YouTube, and Kick every Friday and Saturday night, so make sure and follow, like, and subscribe so you will get notifications when we go live. And if you haven't already, join the free Discord server where we take the conversations after the lights go off and the cameras go away. That is where you can tell me if you are interested in participating in the debates. I am the Horseradish, and we hope to see you guys for the next round here in the DMZ.